Chapter 35-45. However, Qin Feiyang did not notice that a blurry figure appeared out of thin air above a hill in the distance. He could not see the face clearly and could not tell if it was a man or a woman. He could not sense any aura from the body, as if it was a ghost. He stood in the void and looked at Qin Feiyang from afar. From the beginning to the end, he did not make any sound and appeared mysterious. But soon, this mysterious figure disappeared without a trace. A moment later, the phoenix-robed woman returned. "Thank you." Qin Feiyang cupped his hands. During this time, he had changed into a set of clean clothes and looked energetic. "It's a piece of cake." The phoenix-robed woman waved her hand and kept the stone door. Then, she took a step forward and landed in the inner region on the other side of the river. Without turning her head, she said, "We are still far from the core region. Hurry up." Hearing this, Qin Feiyang could not help but turn his head and look at the desert behind him. There was a trace of worry in his eyes. How was the white-eyed wolf now? "What's wrong?" The phoenix-robed woman looked back at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. "I want to wait for the white-eyed wolf," Qin Feiyang said. He simply sat by the river and closed his eyes to adjust his state. Now that he was not bound by gravity, his tense state of mind relaxed a lot. Because in the future, when facing danger, he would not be so passive. On the other side, the phoenix-robed woman frowned but did not say anything. She quietly stood by the river. For a time there was a dead silence. Whoosh! Suddenly, there was a sound of something breaking through the air from the inner region. The phoenix-robed woman was slightly stunned. She turned around and looked at the inner region. She muttered, "Why would someone fly from the inner region?" At the same time, Qin Feiyang also opened his eyes and looked at the inner region. He had the same doubts in his heart. Soon, 3 powerful auras entered their senses. Qin Feiyang's pupils shrank slightly. One of the auras was relatively weak. It was a perfected dominator. However, the other 2 auras were extremely powerful. They were perfected dominators. Whoosh! The phoenix-robed woman also took a step and landed beside Qin Feiyang. She said in a deep voice, "I'm afraid there's trouble." "They should be your clansmen? What trouble could there be?" Qin Feiyang looked at her suspiciously. Since it had come from the depths of the inner region, it must be related to the phoenix-robed woman. That was because it was impossible for outsiders to step into the inner region except for the people from the core region. After all, he had personally experienced the gravity of the inner region. Even a sovereign artifact could feel the pressure, let alone a human. "They are indeed my clansmen. However, as expected, the person who came should be my sworn enemy." The phoenix-robed woman rubbed her forehead. There was a trace of disgust and helplessness on her face. "Archenemy." Qin Feiyang stared blankly for a moment, and then his eyes flickered. Could it be that this woman's race was just like the dragons, where there was also infighting? A short while later, 3 figures entered Qin Feiyang's line of sight. The leader was a woman. This woman was about the same age as the phoenix-robed woman. She had a devilish figure and an angelic appearance that was not inferior to the phoenix-robed woman in the slightest. The difference was, the phoenix-robed woman had long fiery red hair. The phoenix-robed woman on her body was also like a blazing flame. Her entire person was like a cluster of burning flames. However, the woman who came at this moment had long hair like snow. She wore a snow-white long dress that seemed to be made of frost. There was also a pattern of a divine phoenix embroidered on it. She looked like an iceberg that would never melt. These were the images of 2 extremes. Behind the woman, there were 2 old men with aged expressions. One was an old man and the other was an old woman. Both of them had white hair and wore white long robes. Their expressions were extremely cold, and they gave people a cold feeling. Very soon, the 3 of them saw the phoenix-robed woman immediately land on the other side of the river. The woman in the white long dress glanced at Qin Feiyang. Then, she looked at the phoenix-robed woman and said with a smile, "Sister, you really left the phoenix nest." "Phoenix nest?" Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. The nest of dragons was called the dragon nest. Could the phoenix nest be the divine phoenix clan? In other words, were these 2 women transformed from divine phoenixes? He hurriedly looked at the long dresses that they were wearing. There was a pattern of a divine phoenix on it. This shouldn't be a hobby. You came specially to look for me? The phoenix-robed woman frowned. Of course. 2 years ago, someone suddenly told me that you had disappeared. Initially, I thought that you were just going to relax and would be back soon. However, I didn't expect that you would disappear for so long. Therefore, out of concern for you, I left the phoenix nest a few days ago to look for you. The woman in the white dress chuckled. Concern? Don't you feel embarrassed when you say that? The phoenix-robed woman sneered. I'm really concerned about you. After all, we're sisters who grew up together. The woman in the white dress said. All right, I've already received your concern. Please go ahead. The phoenix-robed woman did not seem to want to be entangled with the woman in the white dress. Don't be so cold. Am I in your way? The woman in the white dress smiled mockingly. She glanced at Qin Feiyong and asked curiously, Are the two of you on a date? The phoenix-robed woman blushed when she heard that. The two old men had been scrutinizing Qin Feiyong. The white-haired old woman's pupils suddenly shrank. She whispered, Your Highness, he doesn't seem to be one of us. He's a human. Your Highness? Qin Feiyong's eyes flickered. It seemed that she was another woman with a powerful background. A human? The woman in the white dress was slightly stunned. Then she looked at Qin Feiyong in surprise. Let's go. The phoenix-robed woman grabbed Qin Feiyong and flew toward the central region. The woman in the white dress shouted, Stop them! Whoosh! The white-haired old woman and the old man immediately took a step forward. Their speed was far faster than the phoenix-robed woman's. In just a few blinks of an eye, they stopped in front of Qin Feiyong. The white-haired old woman said in a deep voice, First Princess, you're violating the clan rules. First Princess. Qin Feiyong was shocked. He turned to look at the phoenix-robed woman. Her background was really powerful. The phoenix-robed woman's face was extremely ugly. She said gloomily, It's none of your business. You're not qualified to interfere. Please get out of my way. Impossible. The white-haired old woman and the old man shook their heads. The woman in the white dress also flew over and blocked Qin Feiyong. She said with a smile, Sister, I didn't expect that you were secretly meeting a human. Don't talk nonsense. I don't know him well. The phoenix-robed woman said angrily. We're holding hands. You don't know him well? Do I look like a child to you? The woman in the white dress looked at Qin Feiyong and the old man playfully. The phoenix-robed woman realized that she was holding Qin Feiyong's hand. She couldn't help but blush and let go of his hand quickly. The woman in the white dress looked at Qin Feiyong and said with a smile, Human, you're quite capable. You actually captured my sister's heart. Ahem. Qin Feiyong coughed and explained, Miss, I think you misunderstood. But before Qin Feiyong could finish, the phoenix-robed woman said angrily, Why are you explaining to her? There's a misunderstanding. Of course I have to explain. Qin Feiyong was helpless. Do you think she'll believe you if you explain? The phoenix-robed woman snorted and looked at the woman in the white dress. She said, Just say what you want. Don't beat around the bush. Elder sister, your ice-cold attitude makes me sad. We're sisters. Although we don't have the same father and mother, we grew up together. If he's the man you like, you don't have to hide it from me. I'll keep it a secret for you. The woman in the white dress sighed deeply. She felt sad. The phoenix-robed woman was unmoved. She said coldly, Don't you feel tired acting all day? Look, you're going overboard. Am I acting? I'm showing my true feelings. The woman in the white dress sighed and then looked at Qin Feiyong. She smiled and said, Human, no brother-in-law, let me introduce myself. I'm her sister, Bing Runing. Please take care of me in the future. Brother-in-law? Qin Feiyong's mouth twitched. This woman's imagination was really rich. But he wasn't stupid. He could tell that this woman was teasing him. Brother-in-law, tell me, how did you get my sister? There's more. Do you know my sister's identity? You humans have a saying. A man and a woman must be well matched. May I ask what your family background is? Are you good enough for my sister? Bing Runing was curious. The phoenix-robed woman said angrily, Bing Runing, are you done? Bing Runing looked at the phoenix-robed woman and said in surprise, Sister, don't tell me that brother-in-law doesn't know your identity? The phoenix-robed woman clenched her fists. Obviously, her patience had reached its limit. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered and said with a smile, I still don't know your sister's identity. Can you tell me? Ah, you really don't know? Bing Runing was stunned. She looked at the phoenix-robed woman and shook her head. Sister, this is your fault. Since you and brother-in-law love each other, you should be honest with each other. After she finished speaking, she ignored the ashen-faced fire phoenix woman and looked at Qin Feiyang. Brother-in-law, don't be frightened by my words. My elder sister is the beloved daughter of the Fire Phoenix clan's clan head. The phoenix-robed woman. Qin Feiyang's heart trembled. He asked with a smile, what about you? Bing Runing was surprised. Brother-in-law is still so calm after hearing about the phoenix-robed woman. It seems that you're not an ordinary person. As for me, I'm not as noble as my sister. Let's not talk about it. Is that so? But why do I feel that you're not worse than your sister? Qin Feiyang smiled. Really? Is it that I'm not worse than my sister in terms of looks or talent? Bing Runing asked expectantly. Ahem. Qin Feiyang coughed. What kind of brain circuit was this? He couldn't keep up with this woman's rhythm. Tell me, how am I not worse than my sister? Bing Runing asked. This, Qin Feiyang glanced at the phoenix-robed woman and saw that she was glaring at him fiercely, as if warning him to be careful with what he said. It seemed that the phoenix-robed woman cared about this evaluation. Of course, Qin Feiyang could also see that the phoenix-robed woman didn't care about his evaluation. She just didn't want to lose to Bing Runing. In short, both of them were competitive. For a man, this was a fatal question. Chapter 3546. Is it hard to answer? Bing Runing's eyes widened. The phoenix-robed woman's eyes became even more terrifying. You. Qin Feiyang glanced at the two women and smiled. You are sisters. What's there to compare? Both of you are very good. But this ambiguous answer not only did not satisfy Bing Runing, but even the phoenix-robed woman was unhappy. Both of them are very good? Why? She can't be compared to me, can she? Brother-in-law, you really know how to talk. Are all human men so glib? Bing Runing asked with a smile. Cough. Qin Feiyang coughed and smiled. Well, I have something to do. I'll take my leave first. You sisters can have a good chat. Although it seemed calm on the surface, there were undercurrents surging. He was here to find allies, not to make enemies. So he could not afford to offend these two women. It was better to leave first. But, just as he turned around, the white-haired old man took a step forward and stood in front of him. This scene caused Qin Feiyang to involuntarily frown. Brother-in-law, don't be in such a hurry to leave. I still want to invite you to the Phoenix Nest. But before that, I want you to watch a good show. Bing Runing's eyes suddenly turned cold as she looked at the white-haired old woman. First princess, I'm sorry. The white-haired old woman looked at the phoenix-robed woman apologetically. Her aura immediately rolled out and suppressed the phoenix-robed woman. How dare you? The phoenix-robed woman's face changed drastically and she shouted. You have an affair with a human. Even if I kill you now, the clansmen will not say anything. So please hand over that thing. The white-haired old woman smiled coldly and her aura swept out in all directions. The phoenix-robed woman was immediately imprisoned in the void. Hand over what? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Don't even think about it. The phoenix-robed woman shouted angrily and a divine flame appeared. This was the divine flame that protected her. As soon as the divine flame appeared, the white-haired old woman's aura disappeared. Then, the phoenix-robed woman waved her hand and an ancient stone door appeared. This was her space-time transmission divine artifact. However, before the stone door opened, the white-haired old woman slapped it with her palm. With a loud crack, the stone door shattered. Sister, you better hand it over. As long as you hand it over, not only will I not make things difficult for you, I will also help you keep the matter between you and brother-in-law a secret. Isn't that great? Bing Runing smiled. What exactly is it? Why are they fighting over it like that? Qin Feiyang mumbled. The white-haired elder also looked at the woman in the phoenix robe and said, First princess, if you really force us to take action, even the fire phoenix divine flame won't be able to protect you. So please think carefully. Fire phoenix divine flame. Qin Feiyang looked at the divine flame on the phoenix-robed woman's body. The fire phoenix was also the fire phoenix. Did this mean that these divine flames came from the fire phoenix? Was the divine fire of the phoenix this powerful? Impossible. The phoenix-robed woman glanced at Bing Runing and the other two with a gloomy face. Bing Runing asked sadly, "Sister, do you really want to force me to fall out with you? Even if you don't think for yourself, shouldn't you think for brother-in-law? He hasn't even entered the phoenix nest. If he dies here, it will be a pity." Qin Feiyang's heart trembled. The meaning of these words was too obvious. If the phoenix-robed woman didn't hand over what they wanted, they wouldn't let him off either. As expected, this woman wasn't a kind person. Seeing that the phoenix-robed woman was still silent, Bing Runing took a deep breath and a cold light flashed in her eyes. She nodded at the white-haired old woman. Clang! The white-haired old woman waved her hand and a thin sword appeared with a loud sound. The sword was 3 feet long and 2 fingers wide. The sword hilt was engraved with a phoenix pattern that looked like it was condensed from ice crystals. It emitted a dazzling divine light. Bing Runing, the phoenix-robed woman's face turned pale and she said angrily, "You actually brought the ice phoenix sword out. Are you determined to kill me?" Qin Feiyang was also shocked. This so-called ice phoenix sword was a genuine sovereign divine weapon. This Bing Runing obviously came prepared. No. We are sisters. How can I bear to kill you? As long as you hand over that thing, I'll let you and brother-in-law leave immediately. Bing Runing smiled and changed the topic again. Her eyes were cold as she said, "If you don't hand it over, don't blame me for being ruthless as your sister." The phoenix-robed woman clenched her hands and sneered, "Don't make it sound so nice. Even if I hand it over, you won't let me go. Do you always think of me like this? Am I that ruthless?" Bing Runing's face was full of sadness. But the next moment, a thick murderous aura appeared on her face. It was as if she had become a different person. She was filled with a ferocious aura. She nodded and said, "Yes, I am that ruthless. Kill her." Clang! The white-haired old woman's arm shook and the ice phoenix sword immediately came back to life. It slashed toward the phoenix-robed woman with a destructive sharpness. The phoenix-robed woman's face turned pale. She pointed at Qin Feiyang and shouted, "The thing you want is in his hands." The 3 of them were stunned. They quickly looked at Qin Feiyang. The ice phoenix sword also stopped in the air. Its terrifying aura firmly locked onto Qin Feiyang. "What is in my hands?" Qin Feiyang looked at the 4 of them in confusion. The phoenix-robed woman sighed and looked at Qin Feiyang. "They want the god-slaying tablet." The god-slaying tablet. Qin Feiyang's pupils shrank. After all this time it was for this divine artifact. Bing Runing came back to her senses. She looked at the phoenix-robed woman and then at Qin Feiyang. She smiled and said, "Sister, you are willing to give the god-slaying tablet to him. It seems that I didn't misunderstand. The relationship between the 2 of you is really extraordinary." The phoenix-robed woman didn't bother to explain. She transmitted her voice to Qin Feiyang. "Think of a way. I will tell you the reason later." Qin Feiyang looked at the phoenix-robed woman with flickering eyes. "Don't hesitate. Otherwise we will all be finished. Because I know this woman too well. Once she gets the god-slaying tablet, she will not let us go." The phoenix-robed woman shouted. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, "But aren't you the apple of the Fire Phoenix clan's patriarch's eye? I don't believe that she will dare to kill you. There is nothing that she won't dare to do. Besides, there is no one else here except for us. Even if she kills us, my father will not be able to pursue the matter. Even if my father finds out, it will be useless. Because as long as she says that she killed me because I had an affair with a human, the clan will not blame her." The phoenix-robed woman transmitted her voice. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, "It seems that I have no choice." "No. You have to do it," the phoenix-robed woman said. In fact, even if Qin Feiyang did it, she wasn't confident. This was because Bing Runing and the other 2 also had sovereign divine weapons. Bing Runing's 2 followers were stronger than Qin Feiyang. However, she could only place her hopes on Qin Feiyang now. "All right." Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and looked at Bing Runing with a smile. "So, you want the god-slaying tablet. All right, I will give it to you. However, you must not make things difficult for me. Give it to her." The phoenix-robed woman's face froze. Bing Runing was also stunned. She looked at the phoenix-robed woman strangely and asked Qin Feiyang, "What about my sister? Her life and death have nothing to do with me." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Bing Runing was stunned. "You bastard!" The phoenix-robed woman shouted angrily. She didn't expect that he would be such a coward. Husband and wife are birds in the same forest. When disaster strikes, they fly away separately. You are so heartless. Sister, see? This is the man you like. Bing Runing smiled sarcastically and looked at Qin Feiyang. She nodded and said, "All right, I promise you. As long as you hand over the god-slaying tablet, I will let you go." Qin Feiyang said, "Words are not proof. Swear it as proof." The phoenix-robed woman was stunned. Why did this sound so familiar? Wait. Back then, Qin Feiyang tricked her into swearing a blood oath like this. At this moment, she knew what Qin Feiyang wanted to do. He wanted to trick Bing Runing into swearing a blood oath. As long as Bing Runing swears a blood oath, the current situation could be easily solved. This guy was indeed cunning. However, she was looking forward to seeing if the blood oath would come true. Swear it as proof? Bing Runing was taken aback. Are all humans so childish? If I have offended you in any way, please forgive me. However, I have no choice. You are too strong. I only dare to give you the god-slaying tablet if you feel safe. Qin Feiyang sighed helplessly. All right. Bing Runing nodded. Straightforward. Then I will teach you. Qin Feiyang smiled. Do I need you to teach me how to swear an oath? Are you doubting my intelligence? Bing Runing frowned. I wouldn't dare. It's just that the oath I need is different from the one we usually make. Qin Feiyang told Bing Runing how to make a blood oath. Bing Runing frowned. Why did he have to make a different oath? Was there a difference? No, there must be something wrong. Otherwise, this human would not have made such an unnecessary move. Hurry up. The phoenix-robed woman was also quite anxious. What was she hesitating about? Didn't she want the god-slaying tablet? Wait. Could it be that this woman had discovered something? You are too childish. I am not in the mood to play such a boring game with you. You don't want to hand it over? Then I will kill you and take it directly. A cold light flashed in Bing Runing's eyes. She raised her head and looked at the white-haired old man standing behind Qin Feiyang. The white-haired old man understood what Qin Feiyang meant. A powerful pressure immediately rushed towards Qin Feiyang. So cautious? Qin Feiyang frowned. It seemed that this woman was not easy to deal with. That's right. His original plan was to trick Bing Runing into making a blood oath. In this way he could easily control Bing Runing. As long as Bing Runing was under his control, all the problems would be solved. However, he did not expect that. Bing Runing was such a paranoid person. He felt that it was comparable to his paranoia. Now that his plan had failed, he could only make a move. But there was still a chance. Because Bing Runing and the other two did not know about his means, nor did they know that he had a sovereign divine weapon. They thought that he was an ordinary human. The phoenix-robed woman obviously would not tell him. Therefore, as long as he could kill one of them by surprise at this time, even if they fought, he could still fight. Chapter 35-47. In the blink of an eye. As the white-haired old man's pressure surged over, Qin Feiyang stood motionless on the spot. Bing Runing, the phoenix-robed woman, the white-haired old man, and the white-haired old woman all thought that Qin Feiyang had been imprisoned. After all, there was a small difference in cultivation level. The white-haired old man's aura could indeed imprison a perfected dominator. However, they did not know that Qin Feiyang had opened the door of potential. Even if there were 2 or 3 of them, they would not be able to imprison him, let alone a small difference in cultivation level. However, Qin Feiyang was still pretending to be imprisoned. You're just a puny human. We asked you to hand over the god-slaying tablet, so you obediently handed it over. How dare you negotiate with the Divine Phoenix clan? This is the first time I've seen someone as stupid as you. The white-haired old man walked step by step to Qin Feiyang, his eyes full of contempt. Woo-woo. Qin Feiyang struggled with all his might, letting out a whimper. Is he trying to say something? The white-haired old woman whispered. Bing Runing glanced at Qin Feiyang, then looked at the white-haired old man and said, Let him speak. Let's see what he wants to say. Hearing that, The white-haired old man slightly withdrew his oppressive might. However, he did not withdraw it completely. Immediately, Qin Feiyang started to gasp for air. His appearance truly appeared as if he was suffocating. After taking a few breaths, Qin Feiyang looked up at the white-haired old man and said, "May I ask, have you mastered an ultimate law?" The white-haired old man was stunned. He was actually in the mood to ask this? He must be scared silly. The phoenix-robed woman was also puzzled. Qin Feiyang said, "Please satisfy my dying curiosity." Of course. The white-haired old man smiled proudly. Qin Feiyang asked suspiciously, "What ultimate law do you master?" "Destruction law." The white-haired old man held back his patience and said. When Qin Feiyang heard this, a wisp of light instantly flashed through his eyes, and he asked, "Is there a supreme profundity?" "Yes." The white-haired old man nodded expressionlessly. "Amazing." Qin Feiyang's face was full of admiration. He looked at the white-haired old woman and asked, "What about you?" The old woman frowned and said angrily, "No." A trace of disappointment crept up from the bottom of Qin Feiyang's eyes. He shook his head and said, "Then it seems that you are inferior to this old senior." "What did you say?" The white-haired old woman's eyes instantly. What she hated the most was people saying that she was inferior to others. Moreover, they were saying it to her face without giving her any face. I'm sorry. Qin Feiyang waved his hand repeatedly and sighed, "I accept my fate. Do it and give me a quick death." After saying that, he closed his eyes. What is this guy doing? The white-haired old man's eyes. Why didn't he fight back when he had the sovereign weapon? Was he really a fool's size? At eyes, the white-haired old man laughed hoarsely and said, "You're quite aware in this aspect. You know that it's useless to resist." As his voice fell, he raised his arm and a destructive force emerged from his palm. This was the destruction law. Although Qin Feiyang's eyes were closed, he could clearly feel the destructive force. He couldn't help but laugh in his heart. "White-eyed wolf, you're in luck. I found another prey for you." However, the white-haired old man didn't sense the danger at all. He raised his arm and slapped the top of Qin Feiyang's head. "Hey!" At this moment, Qin Feiyang suddenly opened his eyes and grinned. Clang! In the next moment, accompanied by a loud bang, the death god's sword slashed out with a sharpness that could tear the sky and earth apart. The white-robed old man immediately let out a miserable scream as his body was directly shattered. Even more than half of his soul was obliterated. This happened in an instant. A supreme expert had suffered a fatal injury. This scene stunned the white-haired old man. She thought that this bastard had given up, but she didn't expect that he was just acting. It was a false alarm. At the same time, Bing Runing and the white-haired old woman's expression froze. Even the Ice Phoenix sword was stunned, not knowing what to do. Because this scene was truly too sudden, and it had completely exceeded their expectations. "I'm aware, but what about you? Do you have this awareness?" Qin Feiyang slowly opened his eyes and grabbed the white-haired old man's divine soul with a face full of ridicule. "You're courting death." The white-haired old man roared. Although more than half of his divine soul had been destroyed, his consciousness had not disappeared. At this moment his tone was full of anger. Moreover, the white-haired old man's divine soul emitted a cold chill, as if he was holding a piece of 10,000-year-old ice. However, such a small amount of divine soul could no longer condense into a form, so it was in a misty state. It was impossible to tell what the white-haired old man's divine soul was. "Courting death? Do you think that I, Qin Feiyang, am scared?" Qin Feiyang smiled and clenched his big hand. A part of the white-haired old man's divine soul was instantly annihilated. At this moment, he could feel a murderous intent from Qin Feiyang's body. In his heart he couldn't help but feel a sense of terror. Qin Feiyang didn't talk nonsense with him and directly sealed him with the karma law, and threw him into the interspatial ring. He has a sovereign divine weapon. The white-haired old woman finally came back to her senses and shouted, immediately standing in front of Bing Runing. The Ice Phoenix sword was also ready to protect Bing Runing, but it suddenly noticed the woman in the phoenix robe who was about to make a move. It immediately flashed and stood above the woman in the phoenix robe. A terrifying light swept out, and the divine flame protecting the woman in the phoenix robe began to collapse and collapse. "Qin Feiyang." The The woman in the phoenix robe shouted in panic. Qin Feiyong glanced at the woman in the phoenix robe and looked at the sword of Thanatos with a smile. Please. Clang. Accompanied by a deafening sword cry, the Grim Reaper's sword immediately shot towards the Ice Phoenix sword like a graceful swan. Bing Runing finally came back to her senses. Seeing this scene, she immediately shouted, "Stop it, or I will let the Ice Phoenix sword kill that woman." Kill her. Anyway, it has nothing to do with me. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. Bing Runing frowned. What did he mean? He didn't care at all? You don't really think that she has an ambiguous relationship with me, do you? Qin Feiyong's face was full of sarcasm. He said faintly, let's not talk about other things. Let's talk about the God-slaying tablet. I took it from her. Do you think I care about her life? He took the God-slaying tablet? Bing Runing looked at the woman in the phoenix robe and asked. That's right. The woman in the phoenix robe nodded. Are you playing with me? Do you think I will believe you? Ice Phoenix sword kill. Bing Runing shouted. Clang. The Ice Phoenix sword emitted a terrifying sword light and shattered the divine flame on the woman in the phoenix robe. One had to know. The woman in the phoenix robe was facing a sovereign divine weapon. Without the protection of the divine flame, her body instantly shattered in the void. However, at this moment, the sword of the Grim Reaper arrived and collided with the Ice Phoenix sword. A destructive aura burst out from it. The void collapsed and the desert sank. The water of the underworld river rushed into the sky and surged in all directions. Qin Feiyong decisively retreated. He couldn't touch the river water. Don't let him escape. Bing Runing shouted. Hearing this, the white-haired old woman swept up Bing Runing and chased after Qin Feiyong. Very soon, the white-haired old woman found that something was wrong and said in surprise, "How is he so fast?" Bing Runing was first stunned when she heard this. Then she stared at Qin Feiyong's back and a trace of surprise appeared in her eyes. This seemed to be the speed of a peak sovereign. What was going on? Was he not bound by gravity? But how was this possible? One had to know that this was a human, not a member of the Divine Phoenix clan. Capture him first and interrogate him slowly, Bing Runing said in a low voice. Okay. The white-haired old woman nodded. She used a support-type divine art, and her speed instantly increased by several times. After all, she was a peak sovereign and had a support-type divine art. In a few blinks of an eye, she caught up with Qin Feiyong and slammed her palm toward Qin Feiyong's back. You didn't even activate your power of law. It seems like you don't have any awareness at all. Qin Feiyong smiled coldly and turned around to attack the white-haired old woman. The power in his body roared crazily and with a loud bang, the white-haired old woman was sent flying. Her entire arm was instantly smashed and blood and flesh splattered everywhere. What? Bing Runing was shocked. The white-haired old woman stabilized her body and looked at Qin Feiyong in shock. What kind of power was this? How could it be so strong? Not bad. Qin Feiyong lowered his head and looked at his fist. He was very satisfied with his current powerful physical body. With a sovereign-level physical body and power, as long as the opponent didn't activate their power of law, he could crush even a peak sovereign. Bing Runing rushed to the white-haired old woman's side and asked, "Are you all right?" "I'm fine." The white-haired old woman shook her head and swallowed a divine life pill. She looked at Qin Feiyong in shock and said, "But this human is a monster." Qin Feiyong suddenly thought of something and raised his head to look at the battle between the sword of the Grim Reaper and the Ice Phoenix sword. He frowned slightly and wondered if the eldest princess was still alive. Now that he had offended Bing Runing, it was equivalent to offending the Divine Phoenix clan. In the future, he could only rely on the eldest princess. He hoped that the sword of the Grim Reaper could save her life. With your strength and means, you're definitely not a nobody. Who are you? Bing Runing's voice suddenly sounded. Qin Feiyong retracted his gaze and looked at Bing Runing. He smiled faintly and said, "Didn't your sister call my name just now?" Qin Feiyong. Bing Runing frowned. "Yes, but I know that you definitely don't know me. Of course that's not important. Since you and I are enemies, I will naturally kill you." Qin Feiyong took a step forward and his aura surged out. "Don't be arrogant." The white-haired old woman roared and a wave of frost energy surged out from her body. Heaven and earth instantly turned into a cold winter as the cold current pierced through the bones. The law of ice? Qin Feiyang was stunned. That's right. Your strength is indeed terrifying. But is your law of ice a match for this old woman? The white-haired old woman's eyebrows were filled with disdain. She raised her hand and pointed at the air and shouted, "Supreme profound, ice sealing heaven and earth." The law of words. Pieces of ice suddenly appeared out of thin air and rushed toward Qin Feiyang. Immediately, the space and earth in this place were sealed in ice. Large snowflakes began to float down from the sky. Cold wind whistled through the world. The power of cold ice was all-pervasive. It frantically surged into Qin Feiyang's body through his pores. In the blink of an eye, Qin Feiyang's body was covered in ice. Even his flesh and internal organs had turned into ice cubes. Chapter 35-48. Seeing Qin Feiyang sealed in ice, the white-haired old woman and Bing Runing heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, this person's law was not strong. Otherwise, coupled with his ridiculously strong physical body, it would be difficult to deal with him. Bing Runing said, "This person must have a strong background. Bring him back and interrogate him." Okay. The white-haired old woman nodded and grabbed the air with her hand. Qin Feiyang, who had turned into an ice sculpture, immediately rose into the air and flew toward the two. In their opinion, Qin Feiyang had been completely sealed in ice, because this was a supreme law. How could a mere perfected dominator withstand the supreme law's ice seal? However, just when they thought that victory was in their hands, a majestic aura suddenly emerged from the ice sculpture. The two were stunned and stared at the ice sculpture in surprise. The aura was getting more and more terrifying. With a cracking sound, cracks appeared on the ice sculpture. How is this possible? The white-haired old woman's gaze trembled. He was not sealed in ice? This aura, it seems to be. Bing Runing's eyes were also filled with shock. She exclaimed in disbelief, "Karma law. It is indeed the karma law. I didn't expect such a young human to comprehend the karma law." The white-haired old woman's face was filled with shock. But then the shock on her face turned into doubt. Even if it was the karma law, it was impossible to break the ice seal of the supreme law of ice. Unless, all of a sudden her body shook and she roared, "Supreme law! What is the supreme law?" Bing Runing was shocked by the white-haired old woman and asked, "The karma law's supreme law." The white-haired old woman roared in disbelief. A dagger suddenly appeared in front of her. It was sparkling and translucent, exuding a sharp aura that could destroy the world. This was a supreme-level heaven-defying divine artifact. She originally wanted to keep him alive, but the current situation did not allow it. If the other party had really grasped the supreme law of karma, then even she would be in a tough battle. So she grabbed the dagger and charged toward Qin Feiyang. Crack! Just as the white-haired old woman arrived in front of Qin Feiyang, a dazzling golden light rushed out from inside, and the ice covering Qin Feiyang's body immediately shattered. Following closely, a large hand reached out from the frost mist and grabbed the dagger. What? The white-haired old woman's eyes trembled. How dare he grab the supreme divine artifact with his bare hands? The most frightening thing was, even if he grabbed the dagger with his bare hands, there was no wound on his hand. Just how strong was his physical body? Could it be? Did this kid break the legendary limits of the physical body? Is your power of law very strong? Qin Feiyang slowly raised his head and looked at the white-haired old woman standing in front of him. 10 golden lotuses appeared and danced in the air, exuding a world-destroying divine might. It really is the supreme profundity of the law of karma. The white-haired old woman was dumbstruck. What kind of person was this? Comprehending the supreme profundity of an ultimate law at such a young age? This was too outrageous. I'm asking you, is your power of law very strong? The corners of Qin Feiyang's mouth curled up slightly, with a strong sense of ridicule. The white-haired old woman was speechless. No matter how strong the supreme profundity of the law of ice was, it couldn't be compared to the supreme profundity of an ultimate law. Previously, she had shamelessly said that the other party's power of law couldn't compare to hers. However, in the blink of an eye, the other party revealed the supreme profundity of the law of karma. This was equivalent to an invisible slap on her face. To tell you the truth, People like you who haven't grasped the supreme profundity of an ultimate law can't arouse my interest. Qin Feiyong chuckled and clenched his hand, causing cracks to appear on the dagger. Seeing this, the white-haired old woman immediately slapped at Qin Feiyong. The law of ice rolled out and shattered the sky. Qin Feiyong let go of the dagger and took a step back. At the same time, the 10 golden lotuses floating around him released a world-destroying power and blasted at the white-haired old woman. Boom! The white-haired old woman was immediately sent flying. She spat out blood and her clothes were tattered. She was in a sorry state. So strong. Bing Runing's eyes trembled. She didn't expect that this person not only had a sovereign divine weapon, but also his own strength. Now in front of this person she, the princess of the Divine Phoenix clan, felt like a joke. Qin Feiyong's gaze turned and fell on Bing Runing. He smiled and said, I saw that you were laughing happily before. Why, you're not laughing now? Bing Runing's pupils contracted, and there was a trace of unconcealable fear between her brows. Although I don't know what your identity is in the Divine Phoenix clan, no matter who it is, as long as they provoke me, they won't have a good ending. Come on, let me see what you have to be so arrogant in front of me. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. He raised his hand and a surge of the power of karma appeared. It surged toward Bing Runing like a huge wave. Your Highness, be careful. The white-haired old woman's face changed and she quickly rushed in front of Bing Runing. All the laws surged out and attacked the power of karma. The power of karma was immediately shattered. How dare you jump in front of me? Qin Feiyong's eyes turned cold. 10 golden lotuses roared out and a terrifying divine power shook the area. The white-haired old woman's laws were like withered trees that couldn't withstand a single blow, and were shattered one after another. Do you really think that you can do whatever you want just because you have mastered the most powerful laws? The white-haired old woman shouted. Ice flames rushed out of her body. Qin Feiyong frowned. He looked at Bing Runing and saw the same ice flames on her body. They were very similar to the divine flames of the phoenix-robed woman. The only difference was that the phoenix-robed woman's divine flames were fiery red, just like ordinary flames. However, the divine flames on these two people's bodies were made of ice. The 10 golden lotuses flew out aggressively. The two people didn't dodge and just stood there, looking at the 10 golden lotuses calmly. Boom! Along with an earth-shattering rumble, a wave of destructive energy exploded. The wind howled and dust covered the sky. Qin Feiyong stood in the wind and looked at the old woman and the young woman with shock in his eyes. Facing the attack of the 10 golden lotuses, the two people didn't have any injuries. The ice flames were like an indestructible shield that blocked all the attacks for them. Is it the same as the divine flames? Qin Feiyong murmured. This is too strong. Why didn't the white-haired old man have such an ice flame? That's right. The white-haired old man was killed without any preparation. Moreover, he was killed by the sword of the Grim Reaper, so he probably didn't have time to activate this ice flame. It seemed that the Divine Phoenix clan had their own life-saving abilities. With the protection of the Ice Phoenix flame, unless you have a Dominator divine weapon, you won't be able to break it no matter how heaven-defying you are. And your Dominator divine weapon is currently fighting with the Ice Phoenix sword, so you can only be beaten up. The white-haired old woman sneered. Ice Phoenix flames? Qin Feiyong was stunned. Ice Phoenix flames. Could it be that their bodies were ice phoenixes? The woman in the phoenix robe was from the Fire Phoenix clan, and these two were from the Ice Phoenix clan. In other words, there were 2 clans in the Divine Phoenix clan? We can exhaust you to death. Bing Runing snorted coldly as the power of law surged around her. Qin Feiyong raised his head and looked. Among the 5 types of laws, Bing Runing discovered the Devour Law. Like the woman in the phoenix robe, they both mastered the Devour Law. No wonder the two became enemies. One was an ice phoenix and the other was a fire phoenix. Ice and fire were incompatible. In addition, they both mastered the Devour Law. Naturally, they would secretly compete with each other. However, whether it was the ice phoenix or the fire phoenix, they both belonged to the Feng people. Was there a need to do this? Anyway, in Qin Feiyong's opinion, there was no need. They were all from the same clan. Why did they have to make such a big fuss? Boom! The white-haired old woman also activated the 6 profound laws. In addition to the supreme profound meaning of the ice law, there was also a supreme profound meaning, which was the supreme profound meaning of the sword law. You have also mastered 2 supreme profound meanings? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Humph! Don't underestimate the people of our Ice Phoenix clan. The white-haired old woman snorted coldly. The 2 of them attacked at the same time. The various profound meanings suddenly turned into a torrent, carrying with it the power to destroy the world as it charged towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang counterattacked. Gradually he didn't need to frown. Both of them were protected by the ice flames. Even if he destroyed the profound meaning of their laws, he wouldn't be able to break the protection of the ice flames. Everything he did was useless. Moreover, as the 2 of them said, with the constant consumption, Qin Feiyang felt a little tired. Should he activate the law of destruction? But even if he activated the supreme profound meaning of the law of destruction, he wouldn't be able to break the defense of the ice flames. Kill formula? Battle formula? These were all his trump cards. However, these might not be able to break the defense of the ice flames, unless it was the slaughter domain. But now, since he couldn't enter the Black Tortoise realm, there was no point in activating the slaughter domain. Wait, aren't there still 3,000 incarnations? Qin Feiyang patted his head. 3,000 incarnations. If he activated the supreme profound meaning of the law of karma and the law of destruction at the same time, how powerful would that be? However, could 3,000 incarnations really do it? After all, the white-haired old woman had said before that only the sovereign weapon could break the defense of the ice flames. Forget it. Let's try it first. Ayo. But just as Qin Feiyang was about to activate the 3,000 incarnations, a deafening wolf howl suddenly sounded from the desert behind him. Qin Feiyang was stunned and turned his head to look. This seemed to be the howl of the white-eyed wolf. Haha, brother is here. Very soon, the white-eyed wolf's arrogant figure appeared in front of Qin Feiyang's line of sight. Moreover, it was also flying in the air. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He had already broken the limit of the last step and raised his physical body to the sovereign level, but that wasn't right. He was only able to break the limit of this step when he entered the inner region, but the white-eyed wolf was able to break the limit in the middle region? Wait a minute. The white-eyed wolf was at the sovereign realm and he was at the sovereign realm. Because of the difference in cultivation, the gravity they faced was different. Therefore, he had to go to the inner region to break the limit of the last step, but the white-eyed wolf didn't need to go to the inner region. Not bad. A smile crept onto Qin Feiyang's face. As expected of a partner who had gone through life and death with him. Chapter 35-49. Most importantly, the white-eyed wolf had come at the right time. Because the white-eyed wolf had the horsetail whisk. As long as the horsetail whisk was used, it would be easy to break the ice flames on the 2. A wolf. At the same time, the white-haired old woman and Bing Runing also saw the white-eyed wolf and were slightly stunned. Then, a trace of surprise appeared on their faces. This wolf could actually fly in the air? Could it be that the gravity of the heavy region had disappeared? The white-eyed wolf broke through the air, glanced at Bing Runing, then looked at Qin Feiyang mockingly and said, "What happened? It's only been a while since we last met, and you're in such a sorry state?" Cut the crap. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes, then looked at Bing Runing and said, "Hurry up and kill them." What kind of deep hatred? The white-eyed wolf was curious. Qin Feiyang said, "There's no deep hatred. They're courting death." Is that so? The white-eyed wolf nodded and looked at the 2 with a smile. Are you stupid? How dare you come and provoke us? How dare you? The white-haired old woman shouted. How dare a greater mastery sovereign be so arrogant? And this Qin Feiyang, was his brain kicked by a donkey? How could he let a greater mastery sovereign kill them? How dare you scold me? It seems like you're tired of living. The white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed fiercely. Just you? The white-haired old woman smiled contemptuously. Yes, just you me. Horsetail whisk, kill them. The white-eyed wolf shouted. Boom! The horsetail whisk immediately swept out from the white-eyed wolf's body, and divine power surged, covering the sky and earth. What? Another sovereign divine weapon? The 2's expressions changed. The white-haired old woman grabbed Bing Runing and used a supreme divine art to turn around and flee. Just who were these 2 people? They actually had two sovereign divine weapons. Aren't you all arrogant and haughty? Why are you running now? White-eyed Wolf sneered. Their faces were as dark as water. Especially Bing Runing. She had never been in such a sorry state since she was young. Especially now, she had been defeated by a human and a wolf cub. It was a great humiliation. But now, they had no choice but to flee. Although they were from the Divine Phoenix clan, their fear of a sovereign divine weapon was no different from that of other creatures. A sovereign divine weapon was one of the most powerful existences in the Sky Cloud realm. Very soon, the two of them crossed the Nether River and fled into the inner region. The reason for that was because the location of their battle was near the Nether River. The Horsetail Whisk chased after him, but, faced with the gravity of the inner region, its speed was directly reduced by half. On the other hand, Bing Runing and the White-Eyed Wolf were not bound by gravity. By the time Qin Feiyong and the White-Eyed Wolf reached the Nether River, they were already nowhere to be found. Meanwhile, in the sky, the Ice Phoenix sword also shook off the Death God's sword and rushed into the inner area without looking back, disappearing without a trace. What's going on? The White-Eyed Wolf looked at the Horsetail Whisk opposite him and couldn't help but frown. Don't blame it. The opposite side is the inner region. Even a sovereign divine weapon would be suppressed by gravity. Qin Feiyong shook his head regretfully. Not being able to keep the two of them here would be two big problems. Is it that terrifying? The White-Eyed Wolf scanned the inner region in surprise. Qin Feiyong said helplessly, I broke the last limit in the inner region. Why would I lie to you? Okay. The White-Eyed Wolf nodded and asked suspiciously, what the hell is going on? Qin Feiyong was about to speak when the Death God's sword fell from the sky. The Horsetail Whisk also flew over from the opposite side and asked Qin Feiyong, after you broke the last limit, were you affected by the gravity in the inner region? No. Qin Feiyong shook his head. The Horsetail Whisk smiled bitterly and said, then it seems that the speed of our sovereign divine weapon in the inner region is not as fast as you and the White-Eyed Wolf. It's okay. As long as your strength is not affected, it's fine. Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. Okay. You guys take your time to chat. After saying that, the Horsetail Whisk disappeared into Qin Feiyong's body. Qin Feiyong looked at the Death God's sword and asked, what about that woman? Whoosh! A wisp of divine soul flew out of the Death God's sword's body. This. Qin Feiyong was stunned. The Death God's sword explained at that time the Ice Phoenix sword attacked too quickly. I could only save a wisp of her divine soul. Okay, as long as she's still alive. Qin Feiyong smiled helplessly. The Death God's sword also flashed and disappeared into Qin Feiyong's body. Qin Feiyong looked at the divine soul floating in front of him. Although there was only a wisp left, he could clearly feel a scorching heat wave. This is that woman's divine soul? The White-Eyed Wolf looked at the divine soul and said in surprise, yes. She and the other two are both from the Divine Phoenix clan. Qin Feiyong nodded. Divine Phoenix clan? The White-Eyed Wolf was stunned. Yes, according to my guess, the clan in the core region should be the Phoenix clan. This woman belongs to the Fire Phoenix clan, and the other two are from the Ice Phoenix clan. And the identity of this woman will give you a big shock. Qin Feiyong smiled. The White-Eyed Wolf said disdainfully, I don't believe that she is the princess of the Fire Phoenix clan. Qin Feiyong glanced at the White-Eyed Wolf and said jokingly, she is really the princess of the Fire Phoenix clan. And she is the eldest princess, the beloved daughter of the Fire Phoenix clan leader. The White-Eyed Wolf was stunned. Are you kidding me? She has such a powerful background? After coming back to his senses, the White-Eyed Wolf asked suspiciously, if she is from the same clan, why did those two come to kill her? Qin Feiyong said, Bing Runing is also the princess of the Ice Phoenix clan. As for the reason, it is because of the God-slaying tablet. The God-slaying tablet? The White-Eyed Wolf was stunned. Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. The White-Eyed Wolf said, it seems that you are not wrong. This God-slaying tablet is a divine artifact that is about to evolve into a sovereign divine weapon. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, anyway, we have picked up a big bargain. The White-Eyed Wolf rolled his eyes and looked at Qin Feiyong. He chuckled and said, little Qin Zi, you two have a good relationship, right? Why do you suddenly ask? Qin Feiyong looked at him suspiciously. However, when he saw the sneaky smile on the white-eyed wolf's face, he immediately understood that this guy must be thinking about the god-slaying tablet. The white-eyed wolf was about to speak when Qin Feiyong waved his hand and said, "You don't need to say anything. When the god-slaying tablet evolves into a sovereign divine weapon, I will give it to you. However, there seems to be a problem." "What problem?" The white-eyed wolf was puzzled. "The god-slaying tablet belongs to this princess. Even if we have dripped blood on it to recognize it as its master, you should know that for a sovereign divine weapon, it will not be able to bind it. If the god-slaying tablet is loyal to this princess of the Feng people, when it evolves into a sovereign divine weapon, we will not be able to stop it from leaving." Qin Feiyong frowned. "This problem must be solved in advance." "That's true." The white-eyed wolf nodded. "If you want a sovereign divine weapon to follow you wholeheartedly, you must gain its approval." Suddenly, the white-eyed wolf's eyes lit up. He looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "Then make it swear a blood oath of loyalty. The artifact spirit is in a deep sleep. I can't even wake it up. How can it swear a blood oath?" Qin Feiyong was speechless. The white-eyed wolf said, "Will it only wake up after it evolves? It's possible, but I'm not sure. After all, this is the first time we have seen a sovereign divine weapon evolve." Qin Feiyong shook his head. "If that's the case, it will be a little difficult." The white-eyed wolf felt a headache coming on. Qin Feiyong pondered for a while and simply took out the god-slaying tablet and the artifact spirit. He said, "Why don't I give it to you now? You can slowly think of a way in the future." The white-eyed wolf looked at the artifact spirit and the god-slaying tablet and nodded. "Okay." With a wave of his paw, he sent the artifact spirit and the god-slaying tablet into his sea of qi. He then asked, "Then, should we go directly to the core area now or wait for this woman to rebuild her body and divine soul?" This. Qin Feiyong lowered his head and pondered. Logically speaking, it would be safer to wait for the woman in the phoenix robe to rebuild her body and divine soul before going to the core area. However, this woman was a perfected sovereign. How long would it take for her to rebuild her body and divine soul? Because he couldn't go to the Black Tortoise world now, there was no time array. Wait a minute. Time array? Wasn't the white-eyed wolf able to set up a time array that lasted 500 years in a day? Although it wasn't as long as 1,000 years in the Black Tortoise world, it could still save a lot of time. At the thought of this, Qin Feiyong turned to look at the central area and then looked up at the inner area. Since he wasn't restricted by gravity now, he might as well enter the inner area and find a place to hide and recuperate for a while. "Let's go." Qin Feiyong grabbed the woman in the phoenix robe's divine soul and crossed the Nether River into the inner area. The white-eyed wolf followed closely behind. After entering the inner area, it scanned the surroundings. Was there such a strong gravity here? Even a sovereign weapon would be suppressed. It didn't feel anything. About half an hour passed. Buzz. A space-time transmission channel opened above the Nether River. Bing Runing made a comeback. Her face was as cold as frost, and her whole body was covered with a murderous aura. The white-haired old woman was also behind her. Beside her was a middle-aged couple. The aura of this middle-aged couple was even more terrifying than the white-haired old woman. "Where are they?" The white-haired old woman scanned the area below and frowned. "It's only been a while. They must still be in the heavy region." Killing intent flashed in Bing Runing's eyes. The white-haired old woman asked, "The heavy region is so big. How do we find them?" "What do you think?" Bing Runing looked at the middle-aged couple. "Since this human already knows where we came from, he probably won't step into the inner area and will choose to leave the heavy region. Since they are in the heavy region, they can't use a space-time transmission device, so they can only fly out. Therefore, we can go directly to the boundary between the central area and the outer area and surround them." The middle-aged couple pondered for a while and analyzed. "Not necessarily. This Qin Feiyong has 2 sovereign weapons. Looking at their personalities, they are both lawless. According to my personal speculation, they might go the opposite way and enter the inner area," the white-haired old woman said. Chapter 3550. Hearing this, Bing Runing felt that it made sense. If she had not seen it with her own eyes, she would definitely agree with the middle-aged couple's analysis. But after this battle, She had a better understanding of Qin Feiyang's character. He was not the kind of person who would be scared. Moreover, he was also an extremely smart person who was good at strategy. There was a good saying, the most dangerous place was the safest place. Maybe this man and wolf had really entered the inner area. The middle-aged couple looked at Bing Runing and whispered, "Is the first princess dead or not?" Bing Runing said, "According to the Ice Phoenix sword, she was indeed destroyed." The middle-aged couple looked at each other and said in a deep voice, "That's not the same thing. We have to think of a way to give the patriarch of the Fire Phoenix clan an explanation." "Explain what? Who knows that she died here? Who would know that we killed her? Even if the patriarch of the Fire Phoenix clan suspects us, he won't dare to do anything to us without evidence." Bing Runing snorted coldly. She did not know that the sword of Thanatos had protected a wisp of her soul. That human knows. What if he breaks into the core area and tells the patriarch of the Fire Phoenix clan? The middle-aged couple frowned. "So we have to find them and kill them. Also, we have to snatch the god-slaying tablet. This is a quasi-dominator divine weapon. As long as it falls into our hands, when it successfully evolves into a dominator divine weapon, the strength of our Ice Phoenix clan will surpass that of the Fire Phoenix clan." Bing Runing sneered. The white-haired old woman and the other two nodded. "This way." Bing Runing looked at the white-haired old woman and whispered, "Go to the human world immediately and investigate Qin Feiyang's background. The more detailed the better." "Yes." The white-haired old woman respectfully replied and activated a space-time teleportation artifact and quickly left. "The two of you go back and gather more clansmen to seal the exit of the central area and the entrance of the core area. In short, we can't let them leave the central area, and we can't let them sneak into the core area. We have to get rid of them in the central and inner areas." Bing Runing looked at the middle-aged couple and ordered. "Understood." The couple nodded. "Be careful not to be discovered by the Fire Phoenix clan." Bing reminded them again. "Don't worry. They still don't know about the death of the first princess, so they won't pay attention to our whereabouts." The couple smiled. Meanwhile, Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf sped through the inner region. "Wait, what about Yun Zhongtian? Why don't I see him?" White-eyed wolf suddenly asked. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "He has already been sent out. He should have arrived at Sky Cloud Island by now." "Sent out?" The white-eyed wolf was stunned and asked suspiciously, "What's going on?" Qin Feiyang explained briefly. "I see." White-eyed wolf nodded in understanding and grinned. Although the Yun family's clansmen aren't much, this old man's character is indeed not bad. He's worth cultivating. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and scanned the endless desert before him. He shook his head and said, "I wonder how big this inner region is. Do you even need to think about it? They are both forbidden zones, but the inner region of the heavy domain is definitely not smaller than the inner region of the Demon Land. Actually, what I'm most concerned about is whether there are any inheritances of the strongest laws in this inner region." White-eyed wolf grinned. "You." Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and smiled. "Don't worry, when we find a hiding place, I'll give you a surprise." "What surprise?" White-eyed wolf looked at him curiously. "Keep it a secret for now." Qin Feiyang smiled mysteriously. The reason why he had left it in the white-haired old man's divine soul was to help White-eyed wolf. As long as he could plunder the white-haired old man's law of destruction, the white-eyed wolf would master the 5 strongest laws, and his strength would increase by a large margin. Time flew by. Half a month passed. A man and a wolf entered a valley. This valley was made up of sand dunes of different heights, spanning hundreds of thousands of miles. Looking down from the sky, it looked like a huge maze. Qin Feiyang stood above the valley and scanned the surroundings. He and the white-eyed wolf knew nothing about the inner region, so they did not know where they were now. "Let's cultivate here. Now after this woman's divine soul is reconstructed, we'll ask where the entrance to the core region is and then plan our next step." Qin Feiyang looked at the white-eyed wolf and said, "Okay." The white-eyed wolf nodded. Along the way, they had not seen a single inheritance land. Could it be that there were no law inheritances in the inner region of the heavy domain? The man and the wolf landed in the center of the valley below, found a relatively hidden cave and walked in. The white-eyed wolf waved its paw and set up a time array. then stood outside the cave and looked around. Qin Feiyong put the woman's divine soul into the time array, walked to the white-eyed wolf and said with a smile, "Don't get your hopes up. After all, the dragons and the Feng people are two different races. The dragons will set up an inheritance land in the inner region, but the Feng people will not do the same." "Then where is the Feng people's inheritance land?" "I think they must have an inheritance land too." The white-eyed wolf frowned. "We'll have to wait until the first princess wakes up." Qin Feiyong shook his head. What an impatient guy. Then he waved his hand, and the white-haired old man's divine soul appeared. He said, "Don't worry about the inheritance land. Let's see what this is first." Hearing this, the white-eyed wolf turned its head, and a trace of surprise appeared in its eyes. A small part of the white-haired old man's divine soul was imprisoned by the power of karma. However, his consciousness was still there. "Human, do you know that you're digging your own grave?" The divine soul roared and struggled. Qin Feiyong ignored him and looked at the white-eyed wolf. Actually, at that time there was a third person besides Bing Runing and the old witch. This person is him. "Then why did you keep him?" The white-eyed wolf was puzzled. "For you." Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes. "For me?" The white-eyed wolf was slightly stunned. It looked at the white-haired old man's divine soul, its eyes full of doubts. Qin Feiyong slapped his head and said, "I'll give you another hint. He's the surprise I prepared for you." "Surprise?" The white-eyed wolf frowned and scratched its ears and cheeks, extremely puzzled. But suddenly, its eyes flickered as it looked at Qin Feiyong and asked in surprise, "Could it be that he has mastered an ultimate law?" "Correct." Qin Feiyong nodded and smiled. The white-eyed wolf suddenly became excited and asked, "What kind of law? Is there any ultimate law?" "If there's no ultimate law, why would I keep him?" Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled, saying in a low voice, "He has mastered the ultimate law of destruction. When the time comes, I'll pretend to be weak and find out more about it." When the white-eyed wolf heard this, it immediately pounced on Qin Feiyong excitedly and licked Qin Feiyong's face, shouting, "I really, really love you. Get lost." Qin Feiyong kicked the white-eyed wolf away, wiped the saliva off his face and said angrily, "Aren't you disgusting? Don't be ungrateful. It's your blessing that I love you." The white-eyed wolf snorted. "I'm sorry, I don't have the fortune to enjoy it. Find someone else." Qin Feiyong pursed his lips. How shameless. The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyong with disdain, then looked at the white-haired old man's divine soul, its eyes glowing green and drooling. "What do you want?" Looking at the white-eyed wolf's grinning face, the white-haired old man could not help but feel his hair stand on end. "Take a guess." The white-eyed wolf chuckled. The white-haired old man shouted, "I don't care what you do, but I advise you to let me go now. Otherwise, when the time comes, even the gods will not be able to save you." The white-eyed wolf and Qin Feiyong looked at each other and smiled. "You don't have to worry about that." With that, the white-eyed wolf activated its battle soul. Qin Feiyong also waved his hand, and the power of karma dissipated. The white-haired old man immediately wanted to escape, but as a golden light fell, the white-haired old man's divine soul immediately let out a painful howl, like the sound of a pig being slaughtered. Dozens of breaths passed. The deprivation was successfully completed. The white-eyed wolf immediately sat on the ground like a human and began to merge. The white-haired old man's divine soul floated in the void, exuding a wave of disbelief. "My edict of destruction. Why did the feeling disappear?" He roared hysterically at Qin Feiyong. "What did you do to me?" Qin Feiyong dug his ears and said angrily, "How annoying." With that, he slammed his palm down. Accompanied by a shrill scream, the white-haired old man's divine soul was immediately annihilated in the void. If the edict of destruction was still there, he could subdue it and use it as a mount. After all, a divine beast like the ice phoenix was rare, and having an ice phoenix as a mount was quite impressive. But now, without the edict of destruction, there was not much value left. Then Qin Feiyong glanced at the white-eyed wolf and entered the cave. He sat cross-legged in the time array and closed his eyes to comprehend the edict of force. Now, he had mastered 8 types of edict of destruction. They were the edict of karma, edict of destruction, edict of slaughter, edict of thunder, edict of war, edict of force, edict of wind, and edict of light. Among them, the Edict of Karma and Edict of Destruction had already reached the highest level. The Edict of Slaughter, Edict of Thunder, and Edict of War had already been comprehended to the 5th level. Next was the Edict of Force and Edict of Wind. Finally, the Edict of Light. The Edict of Force and Edict of Wind were comprehended based on the return and action techniques, and were closely related to the 2 divine arts. Therefore, he had to prioritize improving the Edict of Force and Edict of Wind. And now, he only needed to comprehend one more 5th level Edict of Karma, and he would be able to step into the sovereign realm. At that time, relying on the Edict of Karma and Edict of Destruction, the 2 strongest Edict of Destruction, he would be able to fight against the strongest of the dragons without using a sovereign weapon or activating the slaughter domain. This was what Qin Feiyang was looking forward to. He had to work hard. Firstly, the madman gave him a lot of pressure. It had been more than 3 years since he entered the heavy domain. He did not know how far the madman had grown in the Sky Cloud realm. Secondly, there was the pressure from the Crown Prince of the Dragons. The first prince of the dragon race had obtained the supreme inheritance of the golden dragon race in the dragon nest. Moreover, in order for the first prince to defeat him, the upper echelons of the dragon race would definitely put in more effort to nurture the first prince. If he didn't work hard, when the time came for him to fight the first prince, there might be variables. For the Eye of Heaven, he absolutely could not lose this battle. Chapter 3551. Half a day passed. The white-eyed wolf finally succeeded in merging. Boom! A powerful aura surged out, causing the surrounding sand dunes to collapse. Sand and dust billowed, covering the sky and earth. Qin Feiyang felt the commotion and opened his eyes. He looked at the high-spirited and proud white-eyed wolf standing outside. He couldn't help but be annoyed and said angrily, "Why did you cause such a big commotion? A breakthrough in cultivation? Is this something I can control?" The white-eyed wolf rolled his eyes and stared at Qin Feiyang. He smiled and said, "Let's spar." Spar. Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. The white-eyed wolf with 5 supreme laws came to bully him, someone who only grasped 2 supreme laws. How shameless was he? "I knew you wouldn't dare." The white-eyed wolf smiled proudly. "I shouldn't have left the destruction law to you." Qin Feiyang glared at it in annoyance. What a heartless bastard. Heh. The white-eyed wolf grinned and retracted his aura. He looked around and said, "You rest first. I'll take a look around." "Where are you going?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "To see if there's an inheritance land." After saying that, the ingrate activated the momentary time and disappeared without a trace. "You're really worrisome." Qin Feiyang shook his head and closed his eyes to continue comprehending the law of force. He didn't care about anything else. He had to break through to the Perfection Dominator realm first. By then, would the white-eyed wolf still dare to jump around in front of him? As for the 5th profound of the law of force, after Pei Tianhong and Elder Hua's explanations, he had already seen the door. He only needed an opportunity to break through. However, not long after the white-eyed wolf left, a series of footsteps entered his ears. "Someone's here?" Qin Feiyang stared blankly for a moment. Then, he activated the concealment spell and walked to the front of the woman's soul. He held her soul in his hand and disappeared into the void with it. As for the time array, the white-eyed wolf had hidden itself in the void after setting up the time array, so no one could sense its aura at all. About a moment later, there were 3 men and 2 women sneaking over. Half-step sovereign? His movement speed is still so fast. Qin Feiyang looked at the 5 people in astonishment. The 5 of them were dressed in gorgeous clothes and had extraordinary temperaments. They looked to be in their 20s, and it was obvious that they were not simple people. But their cultivation bases were rather surprising. They were all half-step sovereigns. One had to know. The gravity here was so strong that even perfect sovereigns would be crushed to pieces. However, these 5 half-step sovereigns were able to move freely. One of them was even floating in the air. What did this mean? This meant that they were not bound by gravity. There were only 2 possibilities for them to not be bound by gravity. First, they were like Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf, who had broken the limits of their physical body. Second, they were from the same clan as the phoenix-robed woman and Bing Runing. Qin Feiyang could tell at a glance that the 5 people in front of him had not broken the limits of their physical body. Therefore, there was only one explanation left. They were also from the Divine Phoenix clan. Since they were from the Divine Phoenix clan, why would they appear in the inner region? After all, there was no land of inheritance in the inner region, nor were there any rare treasures. Moreover, the Divine Phoenix clan had a lot of resources. There was no need for them to come to the inner region to look for treasures. The appearance of the 5 people seemed a little strange. One of the young women looked around and said suspiciously, "There are clearly residual auras here. Why don't I see anyone? It's really strange. We immediately ran over when we sensed that ferocious aura, but we didn't see anything." A young man next to her frowned. Qin Feiyong nodded in realization. It turned out that the aura of the white-eyed wolf when he broke through had attracted the 5 of them. However, why would the 5 of them come to the inner region? Could it be that there was indeed a land of inheritance in the inner region, but they had not encountered it yet? A slightly older young man scanned his surroundings before suddenly releasing his divine sense in all directions. "Oh no!" Qin Feiyong exclaimed. The concealment technique could not block the search of divine consciousness. As expected, the older young man immediately looked in the direction of Qin Feiyong and shouted, "Who is it?" As soon as they heard the young man's voice, the other 4 immediately looked in the direction of Qin Feiyong with vigilance. Qin Feiyong sent the divine soul of the phoenix-robed woman into his sea of qi to nourish and walked out of the void. The 5 of them stared at Qin Feiyong with horror in their eyes. Qin Feiyong glanced at the 5 of them and said in an old-fashioned manner, "Who are you? How dare you disturb my meditation?" "We are." The older young man hurriedly bowed, but before he could finish his words, he raised his eyebrows slightly and said angrily, "We should be asking you that. Why are you a human in our territory?" Qin Feiyong narrowed his eyes and asked curiously, "How can you tell that I'm a human?" Originally, he wanted to pretend to be a member of the Divine Phoenix clan to scare the 5 of them away, but he did not expect them to recognize him at a glance. This was indeed a little strange. On the surface, these people of the Divine Phoenix clan looked no different from him. How could they recognize him? The older young man said proudly, "You humans are born with a lowly aura. Of course we can recognize you." "Lowly?" Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. How big of a sense of superiority did he have to be able to say such words? Be careful. He can ignore gravity, so he's definitely not an ordinary human. A young woman transmitted her voice. Heard it. The few of them were stunned. Only then did they realize that this human in front of them could actually talk and laugh under the gravity of the inner area, and was not affected at all. Humans are born with a lowly aura. To be honest, this sentence is very interesting. The corners of Qin Feiyong's mouth raised slightly, and an invisible pressure rushed toward the 5 of them. Seeing that the situation was not good, the 5 of them turned around and fled. Boom! The pressure rushed out, and the 5 of them were immediately imprisoned in the void. Qin Feiyong took a step forward and landed in front of the 5 of them. He said with a smile, "You want to run after scolding me? How can there be such an easy thing?" Sorry, it's our fault." The 5 of them were full of panic. He could actually fly. What kind of human was this? According to the elders in the clan, only their Divine Phoenix clan could ignore the gravity of the heavy region. Qin Feiyong crossed his arms and looked at the 5 of them. "I really want to know, as the leader of all living beings, why do you have a lowly aura?" A woman looked at Qin Feiyong unconvinced and said angrily, "So what if you humans are the leader of all living beings? Can the power of bloodline be nobler than us?" Qin Feiyong was stunned, shook his head and said disappointedly, "It seems that you are no different from the dragons. You all think that your bloodline is nobler than others and unattainable." Dragons? The 5 of them narrowed their eyes. Qin Feiyong was shocked. Looking at the reaction of the 5 of them, they obviously knew about the existence of the dragons. Suddenly, he thought of a plan and said with a smile, "Don't get me wrong, I'm just joking. In fact, I'm the messenger sent by the dragons." "What? You are the dragons?" The 5 of them were stunned. "Yes." Qin Feiyong nodded, and his body exuded a pure dragon's might. "It's really the dragons?" The 5 of them looked at each other. Qin Feiyong was silent, observing the reaction of the 5 of them. because he wanted to test whether the dragons were good or bad in the eyes of the Feng people. When they came back to their senses, the 5 of them immediately looked at Qin Feiyang. There was no longer fear in their eyes but anger. What are you dragons doing in our heavy region? Are you still hiding here sneakily to inquire about the situation of the Feng people? They looked angry as if they didn't want to see him. Qin Feiyang pondered. From the reaction of the 5 of them, it was not difficult to see that the relationship between the dragons and the Feng people was not harmonious. It seemed that this trip was not a mistake. There was a chance to form an alliance with the Feng people. The Feng people ruled a forbidden area, and their strength was not much different from the dragons. As long as he could get the support of the Feng people, it would be much easier to fight against the dragons. I'm asking you a question. What are you doing in the territory of the Feng people? Also, even the dragons can't ignore the gravity of the heavy region. You have to explain these things clearly. The older young man shouted. Don't be agitated, don't be agitated. This humble one has come here on the orders of Lord Dragon King to find your Lord Clan Chief to discuss some important matters. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands. What do the Feng people want to discuss with the dragons? The 5 of them snorted. They were doubtful of Qin Feiyang's words. Qin Feiyang's face darkened. I'm not joking with you. I really have something to discuss with them. This matter concerns the life and death of the dragons and the Feng people. Hearing this, the 5 of them looked at each other. It seemed that he was not joking. What is it? The older young man was suspicious. Qin Feiyang shook his head. I'm afraid that you are not qualified to know about this matter. The older young man frowned. How about this? Bring me to the phoenix nest, and I will explain the reason to your patriarch. However, if this matter is delayed because of you, the consequences are not something you can bear. Qin Feiyang's eyes were sharp. The 5 of them looked at Qin Feiyang's expression and could not help but believe Qin Feiyang's words. What? Don't tell me that the Feng people are worried that a perfected dominator like me will cause trouble in the phoenix nest. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a trace of mockery. What a joke. In terms of strength, the Feng people are not inferior to the dragons. Why would we be afraid of a small messenger of the dragons? Fine. We will bring you to the phoenix nest. The older young man snorted. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a trace of a smile. He cupped his hands and smiled. Thank you. However, I have a companion. I will have to wait for him. A companion. The 5 of them frowned. Qin Feiyang nodded. He glanced at the 5 of them and asked, why did you come to the inner region instead of staying in the phoenix nest? It's none of your business. The older young man replied coldly. Qin Feiyang smiled embarrassedly. How cold? However, it could be seen that the dragons and the Feng people were not on good terms. Chapter 3552. About an hour passed. The white-eyed wolf had not returned yet. Not only Qin Feiyang, but the Feng people and the other 4 could not help but frown. The older young man asked impatiently, when will your companions come? I don't know either. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly. Are all members of the dragon clan so long-winded? The young man raised his eyebrows, his face full of displeasure. Ahem. Qin Feiyang coughed and said angrily, brother, I'm the messenger of the dragons. Can't you be more polite? Is there a need to be polite to you dragons? The young man sneered. All right. Qin Feiyang nodded. On the surface he looked helpless, but in fact he felt very comfortable. Moreover, seeing the Feng people's attitude towards the dragons, he felt a lot more at ease. Whoosh! Time passed and night fell. Finally, with a sound of breaking through the air, the white-eyed wolf landed beside Qin Feiyang like lightning, with a trace of excitement on his face. However, when he saw the Feng people and the other 4, he was slightly stunned and asked suspiciously, who are they? The Feng people. Not long after you left, they found this place. I've already convinced them to take us to the phoenix nest. What about you? What have you been doing all day? Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. The white-eyed wolf was about to speak. The 5 people opposite looked at the white-eyed wolf and frowned. Your companion is a wolf? Why? Do you have a problem with wolves? The white-eyed wolf was unhappy when he heard this. One of the young men sneered. The dignified dragons are actually in cahoots with such a lowly creature like a wolf. I think you dragons have fallen. What the hell? Lowly creature. The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyong in shock and asked, "Is he talking about me?" Obviously. Qin Feiyong smiled secretly. The Feng people were too proud. All creatures were lowly in their eyes. You're courting death. The white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed fiercely when he heard this. Calm down, calm down. Why do we need them to lead the way? Qin Feiyong hurriedly comforted them. He looked at the 5 of them and said with a smile, "Who doesn't have a few friends, right? Besides, we're all living creatures living on this land. There's really no need to distinguish between nobility and lowliness." Degenerate. Hopeless. The young man snorted coldly. A woman impatiently waved her hand and said, "That's enough. What kind of friends do the dragons want to make is their own business. It has nothing to do with us." The youth glanced at the woman and said to Qin Feiyong, "All right, follow us to the phoenix nest." "Thank you." Qin Feiyong cupped his hands in thanks. "Little Qinzi, what's going on?" The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyong suspiciously. How did he have anything to do with the dragons again? "I pretended to be the messenger of the dragons." Qin Feiyong transmitted his voice to him. "You can do that?" The white-eyed wolf was stunned. "Of course. Don't forget that I'm also a man with dragon power." Qin Feiyong thought to himself. The white-eyed wolf was amused. How could the people of the Feng people believe that a human pretended to be a dragon? They were so silly that they were cute. "That's him. Stop." Suddenly, an angry roar was heard as 2 young men came over at lightning speed. Qin Feiyong, the Feng people, and the others turned their heads and looked puzzled. They ignored gravity again. It seemed that they were the people of the Feng people again. The 2 young men were also half-step sovereigns. They flew back angrily, but when they saw the 5 people of the Feng people beside Qin Feiyong, they were stunned and asked, "You guys are here too?" "Yes, we came out to try our luck." The older young man nodded. Then, he looked at the 2 of them suspiciously and asked, "What are you guys doing?" The 2 young men pointed at the white-eyed wolf angrily and shouted, "This wolf cub stole something from us." The 5 of them turned their heads and looked at the white-eyed wolf. Qin Feiyong also looked at the white-eyed wolf suspiciously and said, "What's going on?" The white-eyed wolf transmitted his voice, "It's nothing serious. We just stole a supreme divine artifact from them." "What?" Qin Feiyong was stunned. The white-eyed wolf hurriedly said, "Don't think too much. I'm not the kind of person who kills and steals." "What did it steal from you guys?" A woman came back to her senses and looked at the 2 young men and asked, "A supreme-level heaven-defying divine artifact." The 2 young men stared at the white-eyed wolf fiercely. You guys found a supreme divine artifact?" The 5 of them were surprised. "Yes. All these years we've been trying our luck in the inner area. Not long ago, we finally encountered a supreme-level heaven-defying divine artifact. But before we could get it, this damned wolf cub suddenly appeared and snatched the divine artifact right under our noses." The 2 of them were furious. "Trying our luck, a supreme divine artifact." Qin Feiyong's eyes flickered. He transmitted his voice to the white-eyed wolf. "Did you find the land of inheritance?" "No. But we met several groups of people from the Feng people in the inner area. According to my observation, there's no land of inheritance in the inner area, but there are many supreme divine artifacts scattered around. Many young people from the Feng people like to try their luck in the inner area." The white-eyed wolf thought. "I see." Qin Feiyong nodded. The 5 young men also came to the inner area to look for divine artifacts. The 2 young men glanced at Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf. They looked at the 5 of them and asked, "Why are you with them? And who is this human? Don't you know the rules? You can't have contact with humans." The older young man said, "He's not a human. He's the messenger of the dragons. He came to the Feng people under the order of the Dragon King. As for the wolf cub, he's his companion. We're going to bring them to the phoenix nest." The messenger of the dragons? The 2 of them were slightly stunned. Qin Feiyong smiled and released a wisp of dragon power. He's really a divine dragon. However, the grand dragon race is actually colluding with a wolf. Truly laughable. The two young men looked at Qin Feiyong with disdain. No matter what your relationship is, he has to hand over the divine artifact. This belongs to the Feng people. You have no right to touch it. Okay. Qin Feiyong nodded and looked at the white-eyed wolf. He smiled and said, give it back to them. Don't ruin the relationship between the dragons and the Feng people. The white-eyed wolf pouted. He waved his claws and a golden armor appeared. It emitted a powerful aura. Yes, this is the armor. The two young men's eyes lit up. Isn't it just a supreme divine artifact? Why are you so excited? You're ignorant. The white-eyed wolf waved his hand disdainfully. He erased the blood contract and threw the armor to the two young men. You're knowledgeable? Why are you still snatching it? The two young men said angrily. It's just a matter of convenience. The white-eyed wolf picked his nose and said lightly. The two young men were instantly enraged. He was obviously mocking them for not being strong enough. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, Okay. I've returned it to you. Don't be so calculative. Take us to the dragon nest. Seeing that Qin Feiyong's attitude was not bad, the two young men's expressions softened. Someone else is coming. Suddenly, the white-eyed wolf's eyes narrowed and he looked to the left of the desert. Qin Feiyong was startled. He also raised his head and looked over. He saw two figures flying over like two specters. Experts. Their cultivation must have reached the peak dominator realm. Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other calmly. However, the 7 young men did not notice the two because their cultivation was too weak, and they were not vigilant. At the same time, the two figures also noticed Qin Feiyong and the others. Their pupils shrank slightly, and then they quietly flew over. The 7 of them finally saw the 2 of them. Their brows immediately raised, as if they did not like them. However, on the surface they were still very respectful. Greetings to the 2 lords. The 7 of them bowed. The 2 of them nodded and glanced at the 7 of them. Then they looked at Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf and asked suspiciously, They are? The older young man replied respectfully, They are the emissaries sent by the dragons. They said that they have something important to discuss with the 2 patriarchs. We are just about to bring them to the dragon nest. The emissaries of the dragons. The 2 of them were slightly stunned and smiled. Since they are the emissaries of the dragons, we must treat them well. How about this? We just happen to be at the phoenix nest, so we will bring them back. You guys continue to train. Yes. The 7 of them nodded. Go. The 2 of them waved their hands. Immediately, the 7 of them turned around and left together. Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed. Why were the 2 of them so nice to the dragons? You too, please. The 2 of them walked in front of Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf and laughed. Qin Feiyong smiled and walked in front with the white-eyed wolf. The 2 of them immediately followed. But suddenly, Qin Feiyong's heart trembled and sent a sound transmission. There's killing intent, the white-eyed wolf, be careful. Killing intent? The white-eyed wolf was stunned, and could not help but glance at the 2 of them. The 2 behind him looked at each other, and killing intent suddenly surged in their eyes. At the same time, they raised their arms and rushed towards Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf. You're courting death. Qin Feiyong turned around, raised his hands and punched the 2 of them. Boom! Even if it was 1 against 2, Qin Feiyong's strength was unstoppable, and he sent the 2 of them flying. Their arms were directly smashed by his terrifying physical strength and strength. Bang! The 2 of them crashed into the desert below like meteorites, raising a cloud of dust and sand. What's going on? The 7 of them had not gone far when they felt the battle behind them. They immediately turned around and flew back, looking at Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf again. 1 man and 1 wolf stood in the air, looking down at the 2 of them, their eyes full of disdain. What a strong physical body. The 2 of them slowly got up, looked at each other, and decisively turned around to escape. Hey! Qin Feiyong bared his teeth, activated Moment of Time, and instantly blocked in front of the 2 of them. So fast? The 2 of them were surprised. Qin Feiyong looked at the 2 of them and smiled. Since you attacked us, you should already know our true identity. If I'm not wrong, you should be Bing Runing's people. The 2 of them changed their expressions. They did not expect him to guess their origin so quickly. What are you doing? With a shout, the 7 of them flew over and glared at Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf. It's none of your business, get lost. The white-eyed wolf turned around and shouted at the 7 of them. Chapter 35:53. How dare you? The 7 of them were furious. The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows and said angrily, I'm doing this for your own good. Get lost if you know what's good for you. You're the ones who should get lost. How dare you cause trouble in the heavy region? Even if it's you dragons, the Feng people won't let this go. Murderous intent flashed in their eyes. How stupid. The white-eyed wolf looked at the 7 of them helplessly. Let's not talk about anything else. Is this battle something you half-step dominators can interfere with? Qin Feiyong glanced at the 7 of them and didn't pay much attention to them. He looked down at the 2 and said with a smile, Since Bing Runing sent you to find us, you should know that I have a Dominator Divine Weapon, right? What? He has a Dominator Divine Weapon? The 7 of them trembled and their eyes were filled with disbelief. Wait, why did he mention Bing Runing? What was going on? The 2 of them heard this and their faces were filled with fear. Qin Feiyong laughed and said, You knew that I have a Dominator Divine Weapon and you still dared to attack us from behind. You're really brave. The 2 of them panicked to the extreme. They did know that the man and the wolf had Dominator Divine Weapons. Bing Runing also told them not to act rashly if they found the man and the wolf. They had to report it immediately. But before that, when they saw Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf pretending to be dragons, they wanted to beat them at their own game. First, they quietly approached Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf and attacked from behind. As long as they didn't leave any traces, even if they had a Dominator Divine Weapon, they wouldn't be able to react. And if the sneak attack was successful, it would be a great achievement. But they didn't expect that the other party would notice it. They couldn't figure it out. They didn't reveal any flaws before, so how did the man and the wolf discover it? In fact, if it was someone else, they would have succeeded. But unfortunately, they met Qin Feiyong. Because of the slaughter region, Qin Feiyong was very sensitive to killing intent. No matter how well they hid it, they couldn't escape his perception. Tell me, what is Bing Runing's plan? Qin Feiyong asked. Her Highness, the 2 of them stammered. If you tell me, I can consider letting you live. But if you don't, then you will end up like the old man beside Bing Runing. Qin Feiyong said with a smile. Looking at the smile on Qin Feiyong's face, the 2 of them couldn't help but tremble. 3, 2, 1. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed with killing intent. Don't even think about getting any useful information from us. The 2 of them looked at each other and suddenly roared. A destructive aura rushed out of their bodies. In any case, his opponent had a sovereign weapon, so there was no way he would be able to survive. Qin Feiyong and White-Eyed Wolf raised their eyebrows. The sword of the Grim Reaper appeared in an instant, protecting the man and the wolf. Qin Feiyong pointed at the 7 young men who were standing not far away, and said, Protect them too. But it was too late. The 2 of them exploded in the void, and a terrifying shockwave instantly flooded in all directions. The 7 young men screamed on the spot, and their souls were destroyed. Even the armor that White-Eyed Wolf gave to the 2 young men was shattered on the spot. They blew themselves up just like that. They don't even care about the lives of their people. How ruthless. White-Eyed Wolf was speechless. It's all because of the sword of the Grim Reaper and the horsetail whisk. Otherwise, do you think they would be willing to blow themselves up? Qin Feiyong shook his head. However, they were indeed very decisive. Because even if the 2 of them told him about Bing Runing's plan, he wouldn't let them go. The 2 of them must have seen this point, so they chose to blow themselves up. Subsequently, Qin Feiyong glanced at the void where the 7 young men died, and there was a trace of regret on his face. It wasn't easy to persuade these people to lead the way for him, but he didn't expect that all of them would die. White-Eyed Wolf was right, they were stupid. They could have left alive, so why did they run back? Did they really think that the Feng people were invincible and no one dared to kill them? They still lacked experience. In the eyes of the young men of the Feng people, they were superior overlords, and no one dared to offend them or touch them. It was fine for people like them to live in their own territory, but once they entered the outside world, They wouldn't be able to survive for long due to the cruel laws of the outside world. White-eyed Wolf waved his paw and said, "Don't worry about them. Anyway, there are many young men of the Feng people in the inner area. We can just catch a few more. Then let's find a place to hide first. The explosion of these two people is quite loud, and it's likely to attract their companions." Qin Feiyong finished speaking, and like White-eyed Wolf, he flew away like lightning. Sure enough, not long after, several figures flew over one after another. Standing in the sky, they glanced at the sand rolling in the desert below. This seems to be Dyun's aura. They actually blew themselves up. It seems that they must have met Qin Feiyong and that Wolf King. Quickly inform His Highness. One of them immediately took out a divine soundstone and sent a message to Bing Runing. Soon, Bing Runing brought the middle-aged couple and landed in the sky above the desert. Feeling the surging waves of the explosion, her face sank. The middle-aged couple said in a deep voice, "It seems that they really met Qin Feiyong. Otherwise, no one in the heavy territory could force them to blow themselves up. Because humans couldn't enter the inner area of the heavy territory, and only the Feng people could enter. It was impossible that they were forced to blow themselves up by the Feng people. Therefore, other than Qin Feiyong and the White-eyed Wolf, there was no other explanation." Bing Runing clenched her fists and said angrily, "Didn't I tell you many times not to be impulsive when you meet Qin Feiyong? Why didn't you listen? Your Highness, please calm down. Although they didn't do a good job, at least now we can confirm that Qin Feiyong is in the inner area, so our search area can be narrowed down." The middle-aged couple comforted her. "You can't do anything right." Bing Runing snorted and pondered for a while. Looking at the middle-aged couple, she said, "Our clansmen are in the inner area, so be careful of Qin Feiyong's tricks." Tricks? The couple was suspicious. "Yes. It's very likely that he will use our clansmen to sneak into the core area." Bing Runing nodded. "It doesn't matter. We've already sent people to ambush the exit of the core area. Even if our clansmen are tricked by him and take him to the phoenix nest, they won't be able to get past us." The middle-aged couple said, "What if he instigates our clansmen to send a message to the Fire Phoenix clan? You should know that my elder sister was killed by the Ice Phoenix sword. If the patriarch of the Fire Phoenix clan finds out about this, even if he doesn't believe it, he will ask Qin Feiyong about it. Although we've already thought of a way to deal with it, a lot of trouble will be inevitable. So I plan to strike first." Bing Runing's eyes flashed coldly. "How do you plan to strike first?" The middle-aged couple was suspicious. "Just say that my elder sister was killed by Qin Feiyong. This way, the Fire Phoenix clan will immediately send people to hunt down Qin Feiyong. Coupled with my Ice Phoenix clan, he won't be able to escape from the inner area." Bing Runing sneered. "That makes sense. The first princess is the apple of the Fire Phoenix clan's patriarch's eye. When he finds out about this, he will definitely go crazy. All right, I'll go to the Phoenix nest and personally report this to the Fire Phoenix clan's patriarch." The middle-aged woman smiled slightly, turned around and activated a space-time teleportation artifact to leave. Bing Runing retracted her gaze and looked at the middle-aged man next to her, shouting, "Pass down the order. With this place as the center, use your divine sense to carry out a carpet search." "Yes." The middle-aged man nodded. Time flew by and the sun rose. In the inner area above the southern desert, Qin Feiyong and the White-eyed Wolf sped forward while scanning the area ahead. Soon, they saw a sand dune about 100 feet high. Qin Feiyong looked at the sand dune and said, "After a night of running, we should be safe for the time being. Let's go there and hide." "Okay." The White-eyed Wolf nodded. A man and a wolf flew over and landed beside the sand dune. Qin Feiyong sighed. If Bing Runing knows about the self-destruction of those two people, she will definitely carry out a search in the inner area. It will be impossible to find an absolutely hidden place to hide. The White-eyed Wolf said, "So now we have to quickly find someone to take us into the core area." Qin Feiyong pondered for a moment and nodded. "Okay, you set up a time array and then look around nearby. Don't go too far because now we can face danger at any time." "Got it." The White-eyed Wolf waved his claws and set up a time array. Then he turned around and activated the moment of time, disappearing like lightning. Qin Feiyong entered the time array and took out the phoenix-robed woman's divine sense. He sighed, "Wake up quickly, or we will really be in trouble." Bing Runing already knew that he had 2 sovereign divine weapons, so she would definitely be prepared. The next time they met, it would definitely be a situation of 9 deaths. Therefore, only when the phoenix-robed woman woke up and brought him into the phoenix nest could he explain clearly. And after entering the phoenix nest, even if Bing Runing still wanted to kill him, she would have to think twice. Time flew by. Another night came. Late at night, the white-eyed wolf finally returned. Seeing the white-eyed wolf return alone, Qin Feiyong frowned and said, "Didn't you say that there are many people from the Feng people in the inner area? Why are you gone for so long? And you didn't bring anyone back." "Bad news," the white-eyed wolf said in a low voice. "What?" Qin Feiyong's eyelids twitched. "When I went out yesterday, I did see many people from the Feng people, but when I went to look for them today, I didn't even find a shadow. At first, I thought that I was possessed, but later, I met 2 fire phoenixes who were sovereigns. I thought that since they were fire phoenixes, we could go to them for help. After all, this woman is the eldest princess of the Fire Phoenix clan. But when I went to them, they attacked me without saying anything. They even said that they wanted to avenge the eldest princess." The white-eyed wolf's face was gloomy, and his eyes were filled with anger. "How is that possible? Are you sure they are fire phoenixes?" Qin Feiyong frowned in disbelief. "I'm sure." The white-eyed wolf nodded. "If they are fire phoenixes, why would they attack you?" Qin Feiyong was puzzled. This didn't make sense. Chapter 3554. The white-eyed wolf said, "I didn't understand at first, but when I destroyed their cultivation and interrogated them, I found out that they thought we killed their princess." "We killed their eldest princess?" Qin Feiyong was stunned and turned to look at the divine soul of the woman in the phoenix robe. Wasn't she still alive? Moreover, it should be said that they saved the woman in the phoenix robe. Otherwise she would have died in Bing Runing's hands. Wait, Bing Runing. This must be Bing Runing's doing. At that time, Bing Runing didn't know that the sword of Thanatos had preserved a wisp of the woman in the phoenix robe's divine soul, so she thought that Bing Runing was dead. So she played along and told the people of Feng people that she was the one who killed the woman in the phoenix robe, causing the entire Feng people to hunt her down. This woman really had a heart as vicious as snakes and scorpions. "Did you explain to the people of the Fire Phoenix clan?" Qin Feiyong asked. "Yes, but they didn't believe me. Moreover, I planned to kidnap them and let them see it with their own eyes. But at the critical moment the people of Feng people came, and they were from the Ice Phoenix clan, so I had to give up." The white-eyed wolf sighed. "This must be Bing Runing's plan." Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed with coldness. "Damned woman, sooner or later I'll strip her clothes, tie her up and parade her through the streets." The white-eyed wolf was furious. The princess of the Ice Phoenix clan actually did such a despicable thing. Wasn't she ashamed? Qin Feiyong pondered for a while and grabbed the divine soul of the woman in the phoenix robe. He looked at the white-eyed wolf and said, "Your whereabouts have been exposed. You can't stay here for long. Leave immediately. Now the entire Feng people are hunting us down. Where can we go?" The white-eyed wolf frowned. "Leave the inner area," Qin Feiyong said decisively. "Is that necessary? I think we should find a way to find the patriarch of the Fire Phoenix clan. Because this woman is not dead at all. When the patriarch sees that his daughter is not dead, the misunderstanding will naturally be resolved. At the same time, we can turn the tables on Bing Runing." The white-eyed wolf said. "I've thought about this problem too. But now that the princess is not awake, even if we find her, the patriarch of the Fire Phoenix clan, he might not believe our words. Plus Bing Runing wants to get rid of us. She will definitely stir up trouble. For example, Bing Runing lied and said that we kept the first princess's godly soul to threaten the Phoenix clan. But now, faced with the Phoenix clan's pursuit, we had no choice but to hand over the godly soul and take the initiative to express our goodwill to the Phoenix clan. Anyway, if she wants us as estis she have, but we are different. We are just outsiders. Phoenix clan wolf out. S Feng titi Feng Feng's Feng Phoenix clan teat have it. After all, the Ice Phoenix and the Fire Phoenix are from the same clan. Even if the patriarch of the Fire Phoenix clan looks at his daughter's Ice Phoenix soul and is skeptical of our words, we'll still be in a lot of trouble. So to avoid these unnecessary troubles, we'd better hide for a while and wait for the princess to wake up. Qin Feiyong rubbed his forehead. He did not expect to be involved in this mess. He had always been afraid of trouble, but no matter where he went, a lot of trouble would come to him. Then we'll just keep running like this? The white-eyed wolf frowned. Don't worry, we won't keep running. When the princess wakes up, the misunderstanding will naturally be resolved. At that time, I want to see what kind of expression Bing Runing will have when she sees the first princess in front of her alive. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed coldly. Bing Runing had really pissed him off this time. He would settle this score with her in the future. All right. The white-eyed wolf nodded. If they went to find the patriarch of the Fire Phoenix clan, there would indeed be a lot of trouble. With a wave of his paw, the time array dissipated. Then, the man and the wolf restrained their auras and sped outside. As expected, not long after, more than a dozen people flew over. There were the Ice Phoenix clan and the Fire Phoenix clan. Compared to the Ice Phoenix clan, the Fire Phoenix clan was even angrier. The princess's death was undoubtedly a fatal blow to them. So no matter what, they had to catch this arrogant person and make him pay with his blood. Half a month later, the Nether River appeared in front of the man and the wolf. On the way, they were extremely difficult because they would occasionally encounter people from the Feng people. Basically, they had to narrowly avoid being searched every time. Stop. Suddenly, Qin Feiyong waved his hand and stopped beside a sand dune. He stuck his head out and looked at the Nether River in front of him. What's wrong? The white-eyed wolf was puzzled. Qin Feiyong frowned and said, logically speaking, the Feng people should have sent people to seal off the inner area. But why is there not even a shadow in the sky above the Nether River? The desert in front of them stretched as far as the eye could see. The Nether River was like a giant dragon, cutting the desert in half. The heavy region was not like the Een Demon Land, which was covered by the Een Demon power. So, everything in front of them could be seen at a glance. But as far as the eye could see, there was not a single person from the Feng people. The atmosphere was so quiet that it made people a little nervous. Can't they ignore the rules? Is it possible that they are hiding in the Space Divine item? The white-eyed wolf secretly asked. Space Divine item? Qin Feiyong was shocked. If the people from the Feng people were really hiding in the Space Divine item, it would be impossible to guard against them. Because now, they did not dare to release their divine senses to search at all. Because once they released their divine senses, it was equivalent to exposing their whereabouts. Let's try using the concealment technique. If they are really hiding in the Space Divine item, then we can't use our divine senses to search for them. Without divine senses, then we can rely on the concealment technique to leave the inner area. Now I am worried that they have used the power of law to seal off the void. Qin Feiyong whispered. The white-eyed wolf scanned the sky above the Nether River and said, I don't feel the aura of the power of law. I don't think so. I hope so. But the aura of the power of law can be concealed, so we can't let our guard down. Qin Feiyong secretly said. Got it. The white-eyed wolf nodded and then said secretly, actually, even if we are discovered by them, they can't stop us without a sovereign divine weapon. It's hard to say. The Feng people claim that they are as strong as the dragons. This means that they should have more than one or two sovereign divine weapons. In short, it's never wrong to be careful. Qin Feiyong reminded. Okay. The white-eyed wolf nodded. Qin Feiyong immediately activated the concealment technique. The white-eyed wolf became palm-sized and jumped onto Qin Feiyong's shoulder. Then Qin Feiyong flew toward the Nether River like a ghost, not making the slightest sound during the whole process. The Nether River was getting closer and closer. Whether it was Qin Feiyong or the white-eyed wolf, they were all paying close attention to the surrounding situation. Wait! Suddenly, the white-eyed wolf transmitted his voice. What's wrong? Qin Feiyong braked and stopped, looking at the white-eyed wolf in surprise. There is someone over there. The white-eyed wolf pointed to a sand dune not far away from the opposite bank of the Nether River, his eyes full of surprise. Qin Feiyong looked up. He saw that the sand dune was about a few thousand miles away from the Nether River. It was about 100 feet high and looked very conspicuous in the boundless and flat desert. However, he didn't see anyone on the sand dune. I clearly saw a figure just now. How did it disappear in the blink of an eye? The white-eyed wolf scratched his head, his face full of confusion. Qin Feiyong retracted his gaze and looked at the white-eyed wolf, asking, "Are you sure you saw a figure?" "Yes." The white-eyed wolf nodded. A few thousand miles was nothing to its cultivation level, so it definitely didn't see wrongly. Could it be someone from the Feng people? Qin Feiyong transmitted his voice. "I don't know." The white-eyed wolf shook his head. If it was in the inner region, it would definitely be someone from the Feng people. However, the gravity in the central region could be withstood by beings at the peak sovereign realm, and there were indeed many beings exploring the central region. Therefore, it was hard to make a judgment in this situation. "Let's take a gamble." Qin Feiyong gritted his teeth and continued to fly toward the Nether River. If it was someone from the Feng people, it meant that the Feng people's blockade was on the other side of the Nether River. Since the blockade was on the other side, there wouldn't be any blockade in the sky above the Nether River. After about 10 breaths, they finally arrived at the Nether River. Scanning the empty void, they didn't stop and went straight to the sky above the river. Boom! However, before they entered the sky above the river, the man and the wolf seemed to have collided with an invisible barrier. A terrifying aura erupted and directly pushed them back. The invisible state of the concealment art was also forcefully broken. At the same time, on the riverbank, a screen of light slowly appeared in the void. The light screen was as tall as the sky and extended along the Nether River to both ends, emitting dazzling divine light. From afar, it looked like a giant wall towering into the sky between the central region and the inner region, releasing a terrifying space-time force. This is space-time law. It's really blocked. Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf's expressions changed. Without hesitation, they took out the sword of Thanatos and slashed at the space-time barrier. Humph! But at the same time, a cold snort sounded in the void. The next moment, a middle-aged man with his upper body exposed and wearing a pair of large underpants walked out of the void. He was 2 meters tall, with short snow-white hair and bulging muscles. There was a trace of coldness on his face and a wild aura around him. Expert! Qin Feiyong's pupils contracted. Without any hesitation, the sword of Thanatos rushed into the sky, carrying a sharp edge that could destroy the world, and attacked the middle-aged man. But in this regard, the middle-aged man didn't retreat at all. He waved his hand and a shining iron hammer appeared. It was 3 feet long and seemed to be condensed from ice, emitting a bone-piercing cold current. As soon as this black ice iron hammer appeared, a monstrous divine power suddenly burst out. Chapter 3555. The middle-aged man grabbed the dark ice hammer and smashed it at the sword of Thanatos. Clang! The two artifacts collided with a loud bang, and a terrifying wave of energy immediately rolled out in all directions like a torrent. The sword of Thanatos instantly retreated to the front of Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf. Its divine power fell down, protecting the man and the wolf from being affected by the wave of energy. Dominator divine weapon. The white-eyed wolf stared at the dark ice hammer in the middle-aged man's hand and swallowed his saliva. Horsetail whisk. You should also help out. Qin Feiyong shouted. Boom! The horsetail whisk carried a monstrous power and roared out. Qin Feiyong grabbed the sword of Thanatos, and the white-eyed wolf held the horsetail whisk. The man and the wolf looked at each other and immediately charged at the middle-aged man. Seeing the two Dominator divine weapons, the middle-aged man's pupils shrank. But he did not retreat. He was like a barbaric war god, holding the dark ice hammer and smashing it at Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf. How dare you! The white-eyed wolf snorted coldly, and the horsetail whisk shone brightly as it attacked. But Qin Feiyong suddenly turned in the air, and the sword of Thanatos was extremely sharp, and slashed at the space-time enchantment. That's right. His target was the space-time enchantment, because he did not want to continue fighting. Now he was not qualified to continue fighting. The fluctuations of the Dominator divine weapons were not comparable to those of the heaven-defying divine weapons. The nearby Feng people must have sensed it. Moreover, He did not believe that the middle-aged man was the only one guarding the exit. In addition, the Feng people could open the spacetime transmission channel and spacetime transmission artifact in the heavy region. So as long as they sensed the movement here, they could immediately come to support. So, he had to break the spacetime enchantment immediately and leave the inner area. The white-eyed wolf and the middle-aged man collided, and the world rumbled and the void collapsed. Qin Feiyang also slashed at the spacetime enchantment with his sword. Originally, in his opinion, without the middle-aged man's obstruction, it would be easy to break the spacetime enchantment. After all, the Sword of Thanatos was a Dominator divine weapon. Who could block the Dominator divine weapon? Indeed, when his sword slashed at the enchantment immediately. However, although it was violently twisting, it did not break. How is that possible? Qin Feiyang's gaze trembled and his face was filled with disbelief. Seeing this, the ingrate was immediately dumbfounded. The invincible sovereign divine weapon was unable to break through this space-time barrier? Are you kidding me? I must be seeing things. However, the truth was right in front of him. This scene was too sword. The space-time. It again. The Grim Reaper's sword also found it hard to accept as he shouted at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang held the Sword of Thanatos with both hands. His eyes flashed coldly as he slashed at the Sword of Thanatos. Crack. A crack finally appeared in the spacetime enchantment. Although the enchantment was broken, Qin Feiyang could not help but be surprised. It took 2 slashes to tear open the spacetime enchantment. What cultivation level was the owner of this enchantment? Let's go. When he came back to his senses, Qin Feiyang immediately turned around and slashed at the middle-aged man. After forcing the middle-aged man to retreat, he took the white-eyed wolf and flew toward the crack in the enchantment without looking back. However, before they entered the crack, an arrow fell from the sky. It destroyed everything and went straight for Qin Feiyang's back. Qin Feiyang was shocked. He quickly turned around and slashed at the arrow. With sparks flying, the arrow shattered in the void. However, Qin Feiyang was also knocked back. His face was pale. I've been waiting for you for a long time. With a hoarse voice, a white-haired old man descended from the sky and landed in front of Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf. He was holding a divine bow in his hand. It was as if it was condensed from ice and emitted rays of divine light. At the same time, the middle-aged man also held the dark ice iron hammer and rushed over aggressively. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other and turned to look at the spacetime enchantment. They almost went berserk. In the blink of an eye, the crack in the spacetime enchantment had automatically repaired itself. Clang! The middle-aged man rushed over. Without any words, he directly attacked Qin Feiyang. The white-haired old man held the divine bow in his hand and also attacked the white-eyed wolf. Qin Feiyang sneered. Are you in such a hurry to kill us? Are you afraid that we will tell the real cause of the princess's death to the Fire Phoenix clan? The two of them were silent. They did not hide their killing intent. It seems like that is the case. It's not that easy to kill us. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other. A monstrous battle intent erupted from their bodies. Since they had come to this point, there was no way to escape. One word. Fight. The Grim Reaper's sword and the horsetail whisk fully recovered. The man and the wolf were fearless. They fought with the middle-aged man and the white-haired old man. Terrifying fluctuations swept in all directions. The void was directly turned into chaos. Under the impact of the battle, the space-time enchantment was constantly broken and rapidly repaired. This scene made Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf even more surprised. Who created the space-time enchantment? It was actually so strong. On the other side, on the sand dune that Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf saw, a figure suddenly walked out. It was a young man in white. His figure was tall and straight. He was as handsome as jade. His temperament was quite extraordinary. He stood on the sand dune and looked at the battlefield in the inner region. His brows were tightly knitted together. What happened? The Grim Reaper's sword is still here. But the ancestor is nowhere to be seen. Could it be, suddenly? The young man in white trembled. Could it be that the ancestor had met with misfortune? That's right. This person was Yun Ziang. Damn the Feng people. How dare they kill my ancestor? He clenched his fists. His eyes were filled with killing intent. In the inner region, the battle was getting more and more intense. The collision of the four sovereign divine weapons could only be described as apocalyptic. If it were not for the space-time enchantment, most of the central region would have been destroyed. The inner region was in an uproar at this moment. This seems to be the aura of the Xianbing divine hammer and Xianbing divine bow? Who are they fighting with? The battle of the four sovereign divine weapons had alarmed almost half of the inner region. Whether it was the Ice Phoenix clan or the Fire Phoenix clan, their faces were filled with shock. This is the aura of the Grim Reaper's sword. It's Qin Feiyang. At a certain place, Bing Runing looked in the direction of the Nether River. Her eyes were filled with killing intent. The middle-aged couple next to her had been protecting her. Hearing Bing Runing's words, the middle-aged man immediately waved his hand. A space-time passage appeared. We must get rid of the Fire Phoenix clan before they do, Bing Runing said coldly. She stepped into the space-time passage. The middle-aged couple followed closely behind. In the blink of an eye, the three of them arrived above the battlefield. The Ice Phoenix sword immediately appeared. Divine aura surged and protected the three of them. Ice Phoenix sword. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf's pupils shrank. This woman was really fast. Back off. Bing Runing looked at Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf, as well as the middle-aged man and the white-haired old man. Seeing that the Fire Phoenix clan's people hadn't arrived yet, she snorted coldly at the middle-aged couple, grabbed her Ice Phoenix sword, and swooped down to kill Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf. Although the middle-aged couple's cultivation was high, they could not interfere in the battle of the sovereign divine weapons. Moreover, if they did not leave, they would be affected by the battle. Therefore, when Bing Runing spoke, the two of them quickly retreated to a distance to watch the battle. Bing Runing, as the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes blaze with hatred. Qin Feiyang forced the middle-aged man back with his sword. Then he grabbed the Grim Reaper's sword and charged toward Bing Runing aggressively. You're courting death. Seeing this, the middle-aged man roared. He grabbed the Black Ice Divine Hammer and chased after Bing Runing with a sovereign divine art. Whether it was for Bing Runing or the entire Ice Phoenix clan, this human must die. Go to hell. Bing Runing smiled coldly. Her Ice Phoenix sword slashed out with a monstrous light. You're the one who's going to die. Qin Feiyang's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he met the attack with his sword. When the two swords collided, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. Both of them spat out a mouthful of blood and were sent flying. It really is the purple gold dragon blood. When the middle-aged man saw this, the murderous intent in his eyes intensified. The Black Ice Divine Hammer in his hand spewed out a bone-piercing cold current as it smashed toward Qin Feiyang's head. Bing Runing had already told the main figures of the Ice Phoenix clan that Qin Feiyang had the purple gold dragon blood. They were the higher-ups of the Ice Phoenix clan. However, no one in the Fire Phoenix clan knew about this yet. Facing the middle-aged man's attack, Qin Feiyang's body tensed up. He quickly stabilized his body and turned around to slash with his sword. How could a hasty counterattack be a match for the middle-aged man? After all, the middle-aged man had been accumulating his power for a long time. With a loud clang, Qin Feiyang was sent flying again. His arm was split open and blood flowed out. Seeing this, Bing Runing and the middle-aged man charged toward Qin Feiyang at the same time. Their eyes were filled with murderous intent. Little Qin Zi. The white-eyed wolf roared as he frantically attacked the white-haired old man with his horsetail whisk. However, the Black Ice Divine Bow in the white-haired old man's hand was also a Dominator divine weapon. Moreover, he was aware of Qin Feiyang's situation. There was no way he would give the white-eyed wolf a chance to help. He would fight the white-eyed wolf with all his might, leaving the white-eyed wolf anxious. You and my sister are in love. If I don't send you down to reunite with her now, how can I live up to our sisterhood? Bing Runing sneered. Her Ice Phoenix sword was peerlessly sharp and did not give Qin Feiyang any chance to breathe. The middle-aged man was even more ferocious. The two of them charged toward Qin Feiyang at lightning speed. Their two Dominator divine weapons mercilessly attacked. Qin Feiyang, I promised Yun Zhongtian to protect your safety. Find a chance to escape. I will hold them back. The Grim Reaper's sword's voice rang in Qin Feiyang's mind. With a loud clang, a black fog roared out from the Grim Reaper's sword. An aura of death suddenly enveloped the area. In the black fog, a giant black figure could be vaguely seen. It was as if a demon god had descended. Then, the black fog surged and enveloped Qin Feiyang, protecting him like a barrier. Go! Don't look back! With a violent roar, the Grim Reaper's sword charged toward Bing Runing and the middle-aged man without hesitation. One could clearly feel a sense of determination. Chapter 3556. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang was enraged. He looked at Bing Runing and said, "The Feng people know the Ice Phoenix race. You will pay for what you did today." Boom! The 3,000 clones activated. The Destruction Law and Karma Law Paramount Profundity roared out at the same time. The 3,000 Destruction Law Paramount Profundity and the 3,000 Karma Law Paramount Profundity exuded a destructive aura. That's right. He didn't run away. He couldn't abandon the sword of the Grim Reaper, let alone the white-eyed wolf and the horsetail whisk. Moreover, even if he ran away now, he wouldn't be able to escape the inner area. He would fall into Bing Runing's hands sooner or later. This, Bing Runing, the middle-aged man, and the white-robed old man were shocked. The Destruction Law Paramount Profundity? Not only did he master the Karma Law Paramount Profundity, but he also mastered the Destruction Law Paramount Profundity. This person's talent was too terrifying. Even if I'm like a moth flying into a flame, I still want to fight. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and the 3,000 Karma Law Paramount Profundity and the 3,000 Destruction Law Paramount Profundity turned into a torrent that flooded the sky and swept across the land. Since you know you're like a moth flying into a flame, then give up struggling. Bing Runing and the white-robed old man's eyes turned cold as they attacked the sword of the Grim Reaper. With a clang, the sword of the Grim Reaper was sent flying and a crack appeared on it. Then the two grabbed the Ice Phoenix sword and the Black Ice Divine Hammer and charged toward the 6,000 Profundity. Rumble! 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 Under the might of the two sovereign divine weapons, the 6,000 ultimate profound meanings could not resist at all, and they all crumbled. Original body, let's retreat. There's still hope if we retreat. If we don't retreat, we'll die. The 3,000 clones shouted. With their strength, even if they only had one sovereign divine weapon, they wouldn't be able to fight, let alone two. Die. Struggling is futile. Bing Runing sneered as the Ice Phoenix sword left her hand and charged toward Qin Feiyang. Clang! Seeing this, the sword of the Grim Reaper hurriedly blocked in front of it. The two divine weapons collided once again, and a destructive aura flooded the surroundings. Qin Feiyang had the protection of the sword of the Grim Reaper, so he was only sent flying. However, his 3,000 clones were instantly annihilated by this destructive aura. Now let's see who can save you. Seeing that the Death God's sword was being held back by the Ice Phoenix sword, the middle-aged man looked at Qin Feiyang with a cold smile on his face. He gripped the profound Ice Divine Hammer tightly and activated an auxiliary divine art, charging towards Qin Feiyang. At this moment, Qin Feiyang truly felt the threat of death. Boom! But at this moment, a powerful aura descended from the sky. It was accompanied by the divine might of a sovereign armament. Qin Feiyang looked up and saw a middle-aged man standing in the air. He was about 1.8 meters tall and had a square face. He wore a fiery red robe, and his long hair danced in the wind like flames. Strands of white hair could be vaguely seen on his temples, giving off a vicissitude aura. His entire person was like an emperor, exuding an invisible majesty that made people revere him. At the same time, above the middle-aged man's head, a palm-sized divine jade floated. The divine jade was surrounded by flames, and a fire phoenix was carved on it. The divine might of a sovereign armament came from this divine jade. From this one could see that this divine jade was a sovereign realm divine weapon. Not good. Bing Runing's pupils shrank when she saw this person. She shouted at the middle-aged man, "Quickly deal with him." Qin Feiyang clearly saw the change in Bing Runing's expression. He instantly realized that this person was most likely the father of the phoenix-robed woman. He was also the patriarch of the Fire Phoenix clan. Qin Feiyang shouted, "Patriarch, I have something to say. Your daughter is not dead." What? She's not dead. Bing Runing was shocked. The middle-aged man and the white-haired old man also had a trace of surprise in their eyes. At the same time, the patriarch of the Fire Feng people was originally looking at Qin Feiyong with murderous intent. However, when he heard Qin Feiyong's words, his body trembled slightly. He looked at the middle-aged man and shouted, "Stop!" Bing Runing quickly said, "Uncle, don't listen to him. I saw him kill my sister with my own eyes." At the same time, she said to the middle-aged man, "Quick!" The middle-aged man madly charged at Qin Feiyong. The sword of Thanatos was blocked by the Ice Phoenix sword. The white-eyed wolf and the horsetail whisk were restrained by the white-haired old man and the black ice divine bow. Qin Feiyong was once again in a desperate situation. However, for Qin Feiyong, as long as the patriarch of the Fire Phoenix clan arrived, there was still a glimmer of hope. He indeed took out the remnant soul of the phoenix-robed woman and shouted, "This is your daughter's divine soul. She's not dead?" Bing Runing's eyes trembled. How could this be? She had clearly been crushed to pieces by the Ice Phoenix sword's divine power. When the patriarch of the Fire Phoenix clan saw the phoenix-robed woman's divine soul, he immediately took a step forward. This was the supreme profundity of the law of time, instant time. In just an instant, he landed in front of Qin Feiyong. Looking at the middle-aged man who was charging at him, he shouted, "I told you to stop. Don't you understand?" The middle-aged man panicked and stopped abruptly. He couldn't help but look at Bing Runing. Bing Runing was annoyed. She was about to get rid of Qin Feiyong, but she didn't expect this old man to suddenly appear. The patriarch of the Fire Feng people looked at the Ice Phoenix sword, the white-haired old man, and the black ice divine bow and shouted, "All of you stop." One had to admit that the patriarch of the Fire Phoenix clan was indeed awe-inspiring. One sentence was enough to make the white-haired old man and the two sovereign divine weapons stop fighting. The white-eyed wolf, the sword of Thanatos, and the horsetail whisk immediately rushed to Qin Feiyong's side. Looking at Bing Runing, the white-eyed wolf didn't hide the killing intent in his eyes at all. The patriarch of the Fire Feng people glanced at them one by one and finally looked at the phoenix-robed woman's remnant soul. A trace of joy crawled up his face. He then carefully held the remnant soul and smiled. "You really scared me to death. I really thought you were dead." His face was full of care. However, seeing that the remnant soul didn't respond for a long time, the patriarch of the Fire Feng people raised his eyebrows and looked at Qin Feiyong. "What's going on? Her divine soul is too damaged. She hasn't woken up yet," Qin Feiyong said. The patriarch of the Fire Feng people raised his eyebrows. "Uncle, even if sister is still alive, we can't let them go. After all, it's because of them that sister became like this," Bing Runing said. The patriarch of the Fire Feng people heard this and a trace of killing intent appeared in his eyes. Qin Feiyong saw that the situation was not good. He quickly looked at Bing Runing and said, "Now that things have come to this, you still want to slander us?" "Slander?" Bing Runing's face suddenly showed a trace of anger. She shouted, "This is the truth. How do you still want to quibble? If sister didn't die in your hands, how could you have a remnant soul of her? I've seen a lot of people in my life, but it's the first time I've seen someone as shameless as you." Qin Feiyong shook his head, his face full of disgust. He then looked at the patriarch of the Fire Feng people and said, "Senior, I didn't kill your daughter. On the contrary, I saved her life from someone else." "Is that so?" The patriarch of the Fire Feng people didn't believe him. "Yes." Qin Feiyong nodded and pointed at Bing Runing. "The person who wanted to kill your daughter was actually her." "Qin Feiyong, don't slander us." The middle-aged man's face changed slightly as he looked at Qin Feiyong and shouted. The white-haired old man immediately looked at the patriarch of the Fire Feng people and cupped his hands. "Sir, you must be clear. Don't be deceived by a human. Although our two races have never been on good terms, I believe that Princess Runing would never do such a thing." Bing Runing also looked at the patriarch of the Fire Feng people and sighed. "Uncle, I'm at fault." Everyone present couldn't help but look at Bing Runing. "At that time I had the chance to save sister from Qin Feiyong. But because I underestimated him, sister was almost killed. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If uncle wants to blame me, I'm willing to accept the punishment." Bing Runing lowered her head and said with a face full of self-blame. Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other, their hearts filled with anger. They thought that this woman had found her conscience and was ready to confess. But they never expected that she would put on such a show for everyone to see. It was true that despicable people were invincible. They had never seen such a shameless person, especially when she was a woman. Did she not have any sense of shame? The patriarch of the Fire Fong people looked at Bing Runing, the white-haired old man, and the middle-aged man. Finally, he looked at Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf. The murderous intent in his eyes intensified. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. It was obvious that the patriarch of the Fire Fong people had chosen to believe Bing Runing. He had expected that even if he found the patriarch of the Fire Fong people, he wouldn't be able to get away safely. Damn you! The white-eyed wolf couldn't hold it in anymore. He roared and looked at the patriarch of the Fire Fong people. Everything we said is true. We even saved your daughter's life. How can you believe that bitch's words? If I knew this would happen, I would have destroyed your daughter's soul with a slap so that you would never see her again. You're courting death. The patriarch of the Fire Fong people was furious when he heard that. Bing Runing sneered. She looked at Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf and said, "Since you said that I killed my sister, please show me the evidence. Why are you so arrogant? Let's wait until she wakes up and see what she has to say." The white-eyed wolf shouted. "You're just trying to buy time." Bing Runing sneered. She looked at the patriarch of the Fire Fong people and said, "Uncle, do you know why they killed my sister? Because they wanted to steal the God-slaying tablet, and the God-slaying tablet is with them now." The patriarch of the Fire Fong people couldn't hold back his murderous intent anymore. "See, our words have no credibility in front of the patriarch. But this Bing Runing can easily kill us." Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice to the white-eyed wolf. His tone was full of helplessness. "That damn bitch. She better not let me leave here alive. Otherwise she will cry sooner or later." The white-eyed wolf stared at Bing Runing. His eyes were extremely vicious. Qin Feiyang sighed. He looked at the patriarch of the Fire Fong people and said, "Senior, I know it's hard for you to believe me, but I believe that with your intelligence you should be able to think of a reason." The patriarch of the Fire Fong people looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. "If I really killed your daughter, I could have used her soul to threaten you. But I didn't. Instead, I gave it to you immediately. Isn't this enough to explain everything?" Qin Feiyang said. Chapter 3557. The Fire Fong people's chief was taken aback. After pondering for a while, he felt that it made sense. Usually, when faced with such a hopeless situation, one would use all means to blackmail the other party to fight for a way out. However, this human in front of him had given his daughter's remnant soul to him without hesitation. Just think about it. How could a person who was truly harboring evil intentions hand over the chips in his hands to others so easily? What a trick. But at this moment, Bing Runing's voice was full of sarcasm. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and turned to look at Bing Runing. What was this woman up to? At the same time, the Fire Fong people's chief also looked at Bing Runing suspiciously. "Uncle, this is how smart he is. If he had used my sister's remnant soul to blackmail you from the beginning, he would have gone against the entire Fong people. He would have died without a doubt. He knew this very well. That's why he took the initiative to return my sister's remnant soul to you. He used it to cover up his crime and win your sympathy and trust." Bing Runing looked at the Fire Fong people's chief and then looked at Qin Feiyang. She sneered and said, "You are really smart. However, we Fong people are not fools. How could we let you have your way?" Qin Feiyang clenched his fists. This woman's ability to turn black into white was not small. "What? Did I expose your lie and become angry out of humiliation?" Looking at Qin Feiyang's clenched fists, Bing Runing said with a mocking face. "Damn you!" The white-eyed wolf roared. This shameless woman really refreshed his worldview. "Uncle, they killed my sister and snatched the god-slaying tablet. This is a challenge to the dignity of the Fong people. They should not be punished. Most importantly, he has the purple gold dragon blood." Bing Runing looked at the Fire Fong people's chief and said word by word, "Purple gold dragon blood?" The chief of the Fire Fong people was taken aback. He quickly sized up Qin Feiyang. Previously, because he was too concerned about his daughter's safety, he didn't pay much attention to the purple gold dragon blood in Qin Feiyang's body. Now that he took a closer look, it really was the purple gold dragon blood. How could a human possess purple gold dragon blood? Could it be, as if he had thought of something, the pupils of the Fire Feng people's chief constricted, and wisps of killing intent appeared in his eyes? Qin Feiyang also felt the killing intent of the Fire Feng people at the first moment, and his heart couldn't help but tremble. It seemed that it would be impossible for him to escape safely today. But now, there were so many experts and sovereigns in the Feng people, and there was also the space-time barrier that sealed off the inner region. How could they possibly escape? Suddenly, Qin Feiyang glanced at the remnant soul in the hands of the Fire Feng people. It seemed that now he had no choice but to take this step. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed as he suddenly looked towards the sky and shouted, "Dragon King!" "What? Dragon King?" The faces of the Fire Feng people changed as they looked up. At the same time, Qin Feiyang stepped forward, grabbed the remnant soul of the lady in the phoenix robe, and then retreated at lightning speed. Qin Feiyang. The Fire Feng people realized that they had been tricked and immediately burned with anger. Bing Runing and the others also stared angrily at Qin Feiyang. Even now he still dared to deceive them. The white-eyed wolf, the horsetail whisk, and the sword of the Grim Reaper. Looking at this scene, they suddenly realized that Qin Feiyang was taking a gamble. "Senior, I'm sorry. You forced me to do this." Qin Feiyang grabbed the divine soul of the lady in the phoenix robe and shouted, "Get out of my way right now, or I'll crush your daughter's remnant soul and perish together with her." "How dare you?" The Fire Feng people roared. "I'm not even afraid of the dragons. Why should I be afraid of the Feng people? At most, I'll just offend one more person." Qin Feiyang sneered. The sword of the Grim Reaper and the horsetail whisk were also ready to fight to the death. "Uncle, do you see it? This is his front view," Bing Runing said in a deep voice, but her eyes were full of coldness. How dare he use this lady's remnant soul to threaten the Fire Feng people? What was the difference between this and seeking death? The Fire Feng people's face darkened. "I don't want to talk nonsense with you now. Get out of my way right now." Qin Feiyang clenched his fist and grabbed the remnant soul of the lady in the phoenix robe. "Don't." The Fire Feng people's face changed and quickly retreated to the side. However, Bing Runing, the middle-aged man, and the white-haired old man held the three divine weapons and stared at Qin Feiyang without moving. Seeing this, the Fire Feng people looked at the three of them and shouted, "Get out of my way." Bing Runing frowned and said, "Uncle, if you let them go, you'll be releasing a tiger back to the mountain. Do I have to sacrifice my daughter? Get out of my way. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude," the Fire Feng people said angrily. The three of them looked at each other with uncertain expressions. After a long time, Bing Runing stared at Qin Feiyang angrily and said, "Get out of my way. They can't use the space-time transmission device in the region anyway. Even if they leave the inner area, they can't escape the region." The middle-aged man and the white-haired old man retreated to the side with their respective divine weapons. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf retreated to the side of the barrier and shouted, "Sword of the Grim Reaper, horsetail whisk, split the space-time barrier." The two divine weapons instantly recovered and attacked the barrier. A crack appeared. Immediately, Qin Feiyang, the white-eyed wolf, the sword of the Grim Reaper, and the horsetail whisk rushed out of the barrier without looking back. They crossed the underworld river and fled toward the central area. "Chase!" The Fire Feng people and Bing Runing ordered at the same time. A group of people also rushed out of the space-time barrier and chased after Qin Feiyang and the others. More and more experts from the Feng people rushed over after hearing the news. These people were almost all high-level figures of the Feng people. Each of them exuded an extremely strong aura. The white-eyed wolf looked at the Fire Feng people and the others who were following closely behind and frowned. "Little Qinzi, we can't escape. Let's take it one step at a time," Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. "Sanddune." Yun Xiang looked at the direction where Qin Feiyang and the others left with flickering eyes. "Who are you? Why are you sneaking around here?" Suddenly, a shout was heard. Three people from the Feng people landed around Yun Xiang with cold eyes. Yun Xiang's eyes flashed and a trace of fear appeared on his face. He looked at the three people and said, "Seniors, I'm just a person who came to the central region to explore. I'm not sneaking around. I'm just scared. The three people looked at Yunxiang. The cultivation of these three people was not low. Peak Dominator realm. And all of them had mastered the supreme profound of an ordinary law. Seeing Yunxiang lowering his head and trembling with fear, the three people showed a trace of disdain in their eyes. Do you know Qin Feiyang? One of them asked. Yes. Yunxiang nodded. Know him? Hearing this, the three people's eyes were filled with killing intent. Seniors, don't misunderstand. Although I know Qin Feiyang, I have nothing to do with him. And now the people outside all know Qin Feiyang. Yunxiang quickly explained. So you're saying that Qin Feiyang is quite famous outside? The three people were stunned. Yunxiang smiled bitterly. They have a Dominator divine weapon. How can they not be famous? The three people looked at each other and did not say anything more. They also rushed to chase after Qin Feiyang. Yunxiang looked at the backs of the three people, and a trace of killing intent flashed in his eyes. He then turned around and disappeared in another direction. It was worth mentioning that he was not restrained by gravity. Qin Feiyang, do you think you can escape? Somewhere in the central region, Bing Runing looked coldly at Qin Feiyang in front of her. Qin Feiyang did not answer. Thoughts kept flashing through his mind. But it was useless. If he could open a space-time transmission channel, it would be easy to leave the heavy region. But although he and the white-eyed wolf were not restrained by gravity, they could not ignore the rules of the heavy region. Seeing more and more people and Feng people coming after hearing the news, a feeling of despair filled his heart. But suddenly, the white-eyed wolf pointed at Qin Feiyang and shouted, "Little Qin Zi, look!" Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback. He raised his head and looked to the front. He saw a white figure walking over step by step in the air. It was too far to see the person's face. But Qin Feiyang could feel a familiar aura. It seemed to be an old friend, but he could not remember it at the moment. The most important thing was, this person was walking in the void. His speed was neither fast nor slow, and he seemed to be quite calm. It was as if a god had come to the mortal world, giving people a kind of ethereal aura. As the distance was getting closer, the person's face gradually appeared in front of Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf. It's him? Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf were stunned. It was a young man in his 20s. His clothes were whiter than snow and he was outstanding. His facial features were handsome and there was a faint smile on his face. It was worth noting that there was a sacred boundary around the young man in white. This boundary exuded a magical aura as if it could cut off the rules of heaven and earth, allowing the young man to be outside of the rules. I didn't expect to meet him here, the white-eyed wolf murmured. This young man in white was no one else but the son of the ice dragon, the current son of the dragons. He was really an old friend. No wonder he felt familiar. This time, the people and Feng people also saw the son of the ice dragon, and a trace of surprise appeared on their faces. How could there be another person who could ignore gravity? Brother Qin, long time no see. The son of the ice dragon stopped and looked at Qin Feiyang with a smile. It's indeed been a long time. Qin Feiyang nodded and turned to look at the group of people and Feng people. He smiled bitterly and said, "But I'm not in the mood to catch up with you at this time. It's okay. Let's find a place to sit down and talk." The son of the ice dragon chuckled, giving people a feeling of closeness. Then, with a wave of his hand, a space-time transmission channel appeared in front of him. What? Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf's pupils shrank. The people and Feng people also looked at the son of the ice dragon in shock. Not only could he ignore gravity, but he could also ignore the rules of the heavy region and open a space-time transmission channel. Who was this person? When they came back to their senses, Qin Feiyang, the white-eyed wolf, the sword of the Grim Reaper, and the horsetail whisk immediately rushed into the boundary of the son of the ice dragon. When the people and Feng people reacted, the group had already stepped into the space-time channel. Damn it! Bing Runing's face was full of anger, and she slashed at the space-time channel. The channel collapsed, but Qin Feiyang and the others did not fall out of the void. Obviously, they had been teleported away. Chapter 3558. The Western Continent. In the sky above a mountain, As a space-time crack appeared, a group of people walked out one after another. It was Qin Feiyang and the others. Looking at the mountains and earth below, Qin Feiyang, the white-eyed wolf, and the two sovereign divine weapons felt as if a lifetime had passed. Their experience in the heavy domain these years was even more difficult than the Inma land. But fortunately, they managed to escape safely. But they never expected that this narrow escape was because of the son of the ice dragon. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang let out a long breath, sent the remnant soul of the phoenix-robed woman to the ancient castle, and then looked at the son of the ice dragon standing next to him. The white-eyed wolf also curiously looked at the barrier around them. The aura emitted by this barrier also had a familiar feeling. Even the sword of Thanatos and the horsetail whisk did not take the initiative to return to Qin Feiyang's body this time, as if they were full of curiosity about this son of the ice dragon. The son of the ice dragon glanced at the two sovereign divine weapons, then looked at Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf, and said with a smile, "I really didn't expect that we would meet under such circumstances. Are you mocking us?" The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. "How is that possible? Facing the powerful Feng people, it's already very impressive that you can still take this step." The son of the ice dragon waved his hand. "All right. I'll reluctantly take it that you're praising us." The white-eyed wolf picked his nose, glanced at the barrier around them and asked, "This should be your innate ability, the god's domain, right?" "God's domain?" Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback. After taking a closer look, the aura was somewhat similar to the god's domain. "That's right. But this is no longer the god's domain of the past." The son of the ice dragon nodded with a smile. "It has evolved?" The white-eyed wolf was curious. "Yes. As you can see, today's god's domain is the true god's domain. In the domain I am the god that rules everything. All the rules are under my control. This is also why I am not bound by the rules of the heavy domain." The son of the ice dragon laughed. Qin Feiyang and white-eyed wolf's pupils shrank. Back then, the god's domain could only render the god's art ineffective. Furthermore, the eye of heaven could replicate it. But now, he was actually able to control the rules and dominate everything. Didn't this mean that the god's domain had evolved into a true fighting soul? The son of the ice dragon withdrew his god's domain and looked at Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf with a smile. "Aren't you going to invite me to the Black Tortoise world? We've known each other for so many years, but I don't think I've been to the Black Tortoise world." "Bring you to the Black Tortoise world?" The white-eyed wolf was stunned. "What is it? Are you afraid that I have designs on the Black Tortoise world?" The son of the ice dragon looked at the white-eyed wolf in amusement. "Tsk." The white-eyed wolf's face was full of disdain. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and he suddenly smiled. With a wave of his hand, two people, one wolf, and two sovereign divine weapons appeared in the sky above the Devil's Land. "Little Qin Zi, you really brought him in?" The white-eyed wolf frowned. "In the god's domain he is a god, but in the Black Tortoise world I am a god. We'll talk about it later. Don't you know his character? Even if he wants to fight, he will do it openly. He won't play those dirty tricks." Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. "All right, do as you wish. I'll go find Zhao Si." The white-eyed wolf chuckled and ran out of the Devil's Land. 3 to 4 years in the outside world was more than 1,000,000 years in the outside world. The son of the ice dragon stood in the sky and scanned the Devil's Land, his eyes full of surprise. Qin Feiyang released his perception to check the situation in the Black Tortoise world. First was the western region's Blood Sea. After all these years, the Blood Sea had been filled, and the entire western region was shrouded in the smell of blood. This blood was enough for him to open the slaughter domain twice. Looking at this scene, he thanked the beings of the Black Tortoise world in his heart. Next was the size of the Black Tortoise world. The current Black Tortoise world had grown to almost 4 times the size of the Divine Land. After some time it would probably catch up with the entire ancient world. This made Qin Feiyang feel very gratified. Last was the order of the Black Tortoise world. Although more than 1,000,000 years had passed, the order of the Black Tortoise world had not been disturbed at all. The Pei siblings had no experience in the beginning, but now they were familiar with it and managed the Black Tortoise world in an orderly manner. A moment later, the son of the ice dragon retracted his gaze and looked at Qin Feiyang with a smile. "It's really a magical place. No wonder so many people want to take the Black Tortoise world from you." Qin Feiyong was stunned and looked at the son of the ice dragon suspiciously. From what you're saying, dragons also want the black tortoise world. Who doesn't want an independent world? The son of the ice dragon smiled. Qin Feiyong laughed involuntarily, looked at the tea garden not far away and said, "Let's go over there and chat while drinking tea." The son of the ice dragon nodded. The two of them entered the tea garden, and the horsetail whisk and the sword of Thanatos finally returned to Qin Feiyong's body. Tea garden. Although so many years had passed, the stone table was spotless, and the surrounding tea trees were also incomparably lush, emitting a rich tea fragrance. Obviously, this was also the credit of the Pei siblings. Qin Feiyong sat beside the stone table and took out a tea set. As he brewed tea, he smiled and said, "Now should I call you the Prince of the Dragon Clan, the Divine Son of the Dragon Clan, or the Son of the Ice Dragon? We're all old friends, just call me by my name." "Long Chun," the son of the Ice Dragon said. "Long Chun," Qin Feiyong muttered and laughed. "After knowing each other for so many years, I still only know your name now. A name is just a code name, it doesn't matter." Long Chun smiled faintly. "That's true." Qin Feiyong nodded and asked, "How are your mother and sister?" "Not bad. However, they don't have a good impression of you." Long Chun laughed. "That's expected." Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled, poured a cup of tea, and handed it to Long Chun. "Try it." Long Chun took the teacup, put it to the tip of his nose and asked, nodding, "Not bad, it's a good tea." Qin Feiyong took a sip of tea and sighed. "I really didn't expect that there would be a day where we could sit together and drink tea and chat so peacefully." Yeah. Long Chun was also filled with emotions. The past involuntarily surfaced in his mind, bitter and helpless. Qin Feiyong said suspiciously, "When I heard that you and the first prince of the dragons left the dragon's nest and entered the eastern continent, I went to look for you, but there was no news of you. What have you been doing all these years?" "You know about this?" Long Chun was surprised. "Is it difficult?" Qin Feiyong smiled. Long Chun was stunned, shook his head and laughed. "For you, Qin Feiyong, it's not difficult. In fact, I have been traveling in the Sky Cloud realm all these years." "Traveling in the Sky Cloud realm?" Qin Feiyong was taken aback. "Yes. Although I came to the Sky Cloud realm earlier than you, since father brought me here, I have been cultivating in the dragon's nest and know nothing about the Sky Cloud realm. Therefore, this time I parted ways with the first prince of the Dragon Clan and went around to take a look. It's a sightseeing tour. Until some time ago, I heard people talking about you and the white-eyed wolf entering the realm of gravity, so I went there to see you two old friends." Long Chun smiled. "Sightseeing tour?" Qin Feiyong shook his head with a wry smile. "I'm afraid only you can be so relaxed, but I still have to thank you. If it weren't for you this time, the white-eyed wolf and I would have been in deep trouble. It's just a small matter. Besides, even if you die, you will die in my hands, right?" Long Chun said. Qin Feiyong smiled, picked up the teacup, and clinked it with Long Chun across the air. Whether it was Qin Feiyong or Long Chun, they were well aware of the relationship between them. Sooner or later there would be a battle, so there was no need to say too much. "I remember that we both comprehended the law of light in the past. How is your progress now?" Long Chun asked with a smile. "Don't mention it. I have comprehended too many laws. The law of light that I comprehended at the beginning has fallen behind." Qin Feiyong shook his head. "You are showing off to me." Long Chun was speechless. "You have comprehended the law of space, do I have the qualification to show off?" Qin Feiyong smiled bitterly. "Come on, who doesn't know that you have mastered 7 or 8 types of law force? You should have mastered a lot of law force. Last time, your father told me that your growth is faster than mine." "Really? I don't even know myself, how would he know?" "Don't be so modest." The two chatted while drinking tea, looking very harmonious. Those who didn't know would never think that they had been rivals for many years. Half a day passed. Long Chun was ready to leave. Qin Feiyong got up to send him off, but suddenly thought of a question and said, "Brother Long, I wonder if you can help me answer the question in my heart?" "What question?" Long Chun was suspicious. Qin Feiyong asked, "What level of law force can block the bombardment of a sovereign divine weapon?" "This." Long Chun pondered for a while and asked curiously, "Why do you ask this question?" Qin Feiyong briefly explained the space-time barrier that sealed the inner area. Long Chun heard this, pondered for a moment again and shook his head. I don't know the specific situation, but I heard Dragon King mention this kind of thing. It is said that people who have comprehended the ultimate profound seem to have the power to fight against a sovereign divine weapon. Ultimate profound? Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled, and said in a deep voice, so someone in Feng people has comprehended the ultimate profound? I'm not sure. I also asked Dragon King if he has comprehended the ultimate profound, but he did not give a direct answer about this matter. Long Chun shook his head. It seems that the people of the 4 forbidden areas are more terrifying than I thought. Qin Feiyang murmured. That's natural. And in addition to the 4 forbidden areas, there are even more terrifying existences. At that time, whether it is you or me, we will have to face them. Long Chun smiled. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was stunned. You will understand in the future. To be honest, I don't know how strong they are. I even doubt if they exist. However, when Dragon King mentioned these people, his face seemed to be very solemn. I hope that they will not appear in our lifetime. Long Chun smiled. Chapter 3559. Qin Feiyang's pupils constricted. Even the Dragon King, who ruled over the dragons, was so afraid? No kidding, right? Although he didn't know how strong the Dragon King was, as the ruler of the dragon race, he must be the top existence in the Sky Cloud realm. If even he was worried, how terrifying was the Dragon King? Brother Qin, let me ask you a question very seriously. Long Chun looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Speak. Qin Feiyang looked at Long Chun. If one day, something unimaginable really happens that requires you to abandon your past grudges and join forces with the dragons, are you willing? Long Chun asked. Join forces with the dragons? Qin Feiyang frowned. Long Chun looked at Qin Feiyang quietly. He didn't urge him, but there was some anticipation in his eyes. After a long time, Qin Feiyang raised his head to look at Long Chun and laughed. I'm not willing to join forces, but if it threatens innocent creatures, I won't sit back and do nothing. Hearing this, Long Chun's face immediately revealed a smile, and cupped his hands. Then let's part ways here. It seemed that he had waited for the answer he was waiting for. See you later. Qin Feiyang smiled. After sending off Long Chun, he called the white-eyed wolf back and called Xiao Nadi out. Xiao Nadi observed the god-killing tablet for a moment, and said excitedly, This is a quasi-dominator divine weapon that is about to evolve. Not bad, this trip to the heavy region is not in vain. Not only did he break the limit of his physical body, he also obtained a quasi-dominator divine weapon. Hearing this, the white-eyed wolf and Qin Feiyang were also extremely excited. Xiao Nadi explained again. Because it was about to evolve, the artifact spirit had fallen into a deep sleep. No matter how they called, it would not wake up. Only after the god-killing tablet had successfully evolved would the artifact spirit awaken on its own. Finally, Xiao Nadi brought the god-killing tablet into the land of Source. This was because absorbing the power of origin could accelerate the evolution of the god-slaying tablet. However, Little Wimp also left a difficult problem for Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf. Once the god-slaying tablet successfully evolved, how were they going to convince it to stay? Because if he couldn't convince the god-slaying tablet, then he would be making a wedding dress for the phoenix-robed woman. White-eyed wolf had a headache over this matter. Qin Feiyang had already given the god-slaying tablet to it. It was its responsibility to convince the god-slaying tablet. It had gone to great lengths to obtain a sovereign divine weapon, and it didn't want the phoenix-robed woman to benefit from it. But now, the artifact spirit had fallen into a deep slumber, and was unable to communicate with him in advance. Because if they could communicate now, they could make the artifact spirit swear a blood oath first. Once the blood oath was made, would the god-slaying tablet still dare to resist? What a worry! Qin Feiyang was silent for a moment. He looked at the white-eyed wolf and said, Long Chun told me something just now. What news? White-eyed wolf was puzzled. Qin Feiyang said, he said that besides the 4 forbidden lands, there are even more terrifying existences in the Sky Cloud realm. Even the Dragon King is afraid of them. Do you believe it? What the hell? How is that possible? He must be scaring you. White-eyed wolf shook its head. I hope so. Qin Feiyong thought for a moment. He smiled and said, "Let's go to Sky Cloud Island." One man and one wolf left the Black Tortoise realm. They opened a space-time tunnel and descended on Sky Cloud Island. "Big brother, I brought you wine." Looking at the empty mountain peak, Qin Feiyong laughed loudly. Whoosh! Before he finished speaking, the little rabbit rushed out from the mountain below. Its eyes were shining as it stared at Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong couldn't help but laugh. He looked at the white-eyed wolf. "Me again?" The white-eyed wolf pouted and took out 1,000 jars of unparalleled divine wine. The little rabbit waved its paw and the 1,000 jars of unparalleled divine wine disappeared without a trace. It then sized up Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf and chuckled. "Not bad, you broke through the limits of your corporeal body. You saw through it so quickly." Qin Feiyong was stunned. "Don't you know who Uncle Rabbit is? How can you hide from Uncle Rabbit's eyes?" The little rabbit smiled proudly. Yes, 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 Big Brother is the best." Qin Feiyong gave a thumbs up and asked with a smile, "How are Senior Brother Feng Zi and the others?" "Guess." The little rabbit smiled mysteriously. "How can I guess?" Qin Feiyong was helpless. "Anyway, they are stronger than you." The little rabbit waved its paw and said. Qin Feiyong and White-Eyed Wolf looked at each other and asked in surprise, "They also broke the limit of their physical body?" "No." The little rabbit shook its head. "Then how strong can they be?" White-Eyed Wolf sneered disdainfully. "Then let's wait and see." The little rabbit chuckled. "What about Yun Zhongtian?" Qin Feiyong asked. "Yun Zhongtian?" The little rabbit was taken aback and asked suspiciously. "Yun Zhongtian is with you, why are you asking Uncle Rabbit?" "HM?" Qin Feiyong and White-Eyed Wolf looked at each other and frowned. "He left the multiple regions a long time ago, and I told him to come to Sky Cloud Island to look for you. Is there such a thing?" "I don't know, I didn't see him." The little rabbit shook its head. "Didn't see him?" Qin Feiyong and White-Eyed Wolf looked at each other. What was going on? Could it be that Yun Zhongtian didn't come to Sky Cloud Island after leaving the multiple regions? That couldn't be right. Yun Zhongtian knew that coming to Sky Cloud Island could open the door to his potential. So why would he delay? Could something have happened? He quickly took out the Divine Sound Transmission Stone and found that Yun Zhongtian's contract bridge was still there. He immediately sent a message to Yun Zhongtian, but it was like a stone sinking into the sea. What is this old man doing? White-Eyed Wolf frowned. Something's not right. Qin Feiyong muttered. If Yun Zhongtian left the multiple regions, he would definitely come to Sky Cloud Island at the first opportunity. If Yun Zhongtian had an accident and unfortunately died, the contract bridge would also dissipate. But now, the contract bridge was still there. This meant that Yun Zhongtian was still alive. White-Eyed Wolf asked in surprise, could he have met the dragons halfway? Dragons? Qin Feiyong's pupils shrank as he looked at the little rabbit and said, "Big brother, we'll be leaving first." After saying that, he looked at White-Eyed Wolf and said, "Go to Sea Lion Island." White-Eyed Wolf opened a space tunnel and the man and wolf rushed in like lightning. Inexplicable. The little rabbit looked at the back of the man and wolf and muttered before disappearing into the mountains below. Sea Lion Island. A few years had passed and everything was the same. But Sea Lion's cultivation had improved a lot with the help of the time array. "Brother Qin, Brother Wolf." Seeing the man and wolf appear, Sea Lion immediately greeted them warmly. "How have you been?" Qin Feiyong asked with a smile. "Very good. Also, one day last year, Lord Sea Lion Emperor personally came to Sea Lion Island." Sea Lion chuckled. Why did the Sea Lion Emperor come? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. "My lord told me to cultivate well. He's really taking good care of me. But I know that this is all thanks to you. Otherwise, why would Lord Sea Lion Emperor take a fancy to a small character like me?" Sea Lion said. Qin Feiyong smiled and asked, "Did the little princess of the dragons send me any messages in the past few years?" "No." Sea Lion shook his head. "No?" Qin Feiyong frowned. If Yun Zhongtian really fell into the hands of the dragons, whether it was out of good or bad intentions, the little princess of the dragons should have sent him a message to tell him. Qin Feiyong said, "Give me the Divine Sound Stone." Sea Lion nodded and took out the Divine Sound Stone. Qin Feiyong grabbed the Divine Sound Stone and quickly woke up. Soon, the shadow of the little princess of the dragons appeared. "You're out?" It's a pity that I didn't die in the heavy domain. The little princess of the dragons giggled. That was because many people had seen Qin Feiyang and the others enter the heavy regions. Thus, after a long time, it was no longer a secret. This was also the reason why the little princess of the dragons didn't send a message to Qin Feiyang. Because in the heavy domain, there was no way to receive a message. Then I'm sorry it didn't happen as you wished. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. The little princess of the dragons joked. Then you must have escaped. You even know this? Qin Feiyang frowned. Do you still remember what I said to you back then? Even if you enter the various forbidden areas and find them, it may not be a good thing. You didn't listen, now you believe me. The little princess of the dragon's mouth was full of playfulness. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and asked, what is the relationship between the Feng people and you dragons? You can investigate this matter yourself. I can only tell you that the Feng people will not help you deal with the dragons, the little princess of the dragons said. Why? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. He had already contacted the Feng people, and the Feng people's attitude towards the dragons was not friendly, but why was the little princess of the dragons so sure? Wait, the Feng people's attitude towards the dragons was indeed not very friendly, which made him think that the Feng people could be an ally. But not long ago, when the Fire Feng people learned that he had the purple gold dragon blood, they immediately wanted to kill him. Could all of this have something to do with his purple gold dragon blood? In other words, although the relationship between the Feng people and the dragons was not very good, but at the same time the Feng people also hated the purple gold dragon blood, the little princess of the dragons said, you can ask me these questions, but I can't give you an accurate answer, so you can slowly investigate it yourself. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded and did not force her. Then let me ask you one thing. Is Yun Zhongtian in the hands of the dragons? Yun Zhongtian? I heard that he didn't go to the heavy domain with you. The little princess of the dragons was suspicious. Qin Feiyang's eyelids twitched. It seemed that the little princess of the dragons didn't know either, so he was too lazy to talk nonsense and directly turned off the sound transmission god stone, which made the little princess of the dragons quite angry. What kind of person was this? Little Qin Zi, why do I feel that it's getting stranger and stranger? The white-eyed wolf frowned. Qin Feiyang's face was gloomy as he handed the sound transmission god stone to the sea lion and looked at the white-eyed wolf. Go to the southern continent immediately and ask He Zhongtian. Perhaps Yun Zhongtian had fallen into the hands of the other princes and princesses. And He Zhongtian had now gained the trust of these princes and princesses. If that was the case, then he must know the whereabouts of Yun Zhongtian. Southern continent. 7 Stars City. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf changed their appearances and entered the city. At that time, He Zhongtian's body was shattered and they did not establish a contract bridge, so they could only come to 7 Star City and find a way to contact He Zhongtian. However, He Zhongtian was in the clan's land in the inner city, and the inner city was protected by a barrier, so it was difficult to sneak in. And after a few years, the princes and princesses of the dragons, as well as a large number of followers, must have already reconstructed their bodies and souls, so they couldn't directly barge in now. So one man and one wolf mingled in the various restaurants of 7 Star City, and at noon 2 days later, they finally met a few young disciples of the He family. Qin Feiyang used a little trick to get these people to help pass the message to He Zhongtian. Of course, these people knew nothing about the identity of Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf. Chapter 3560. Guan Yulu. In a secluded pavilion. Greetings, young lord. He Zhongtian disguised himself as a middle-aged man, standing in front of Qin Feiyang and bowing. In. Qin Feiyang nodded and pointed to the chair next to the tea table. Sit. He Zhongtian sat down and smiled. I heard that you went to the heavy regions. How was your harvest? Not bad. Qin Feiyang nodded with a smile and did not waste any more words before he said, there is a question that I would like to ask you. Do you know the whereabouts of Yun Zhongtian? Yun Zhongtian? He Zhongtian was taken aback and asked suspiciously, isn't he with you? Hearing this, Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other, their faces full of bewilderment. Obviously, He Zhongtian didn't know either. What was going on? Young lord, what are you doing? He Zhongtian looked at Qin Feiyang in confusion. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. Yun Zhongqian mysteriously disappeared. I thought he was captured by the dragons, but now it seems that it has nothing to do with the dragons. Mysteriously disappeared? He Zhongqian frowned. Suddenly, the white-eyed wolf was startled and looked at Qin Feiyang, urging, Little Qin Zi, quickly send me to the Black Tortoise world. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. The white-eyed wolf said, When we entered the heavy regions, didn't Yun Zhongqian and I leave a wisp of soul in the ancient castle? Yes. Qin Feiyang slapped his head and hurriedly sent the white-eyed wolf to the Black Tortoise world. He had really forgotten about this matter. Because they didn't have such a habit before, it was easy for them to ignore it. Young lord, what's going on? He Zhongqian looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Qin Feiyang sighed deeply and gave a simple recount of what happened when Yun Zhongqian left the multiple regions. Feng people. Is this the legendary phoenix? He Zhongqian was shocked. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. He Zhongqian said in disbelief, I didn't expect that there would be such a huge monster hidden in the heavy region. Dragons, Feng people. What kind of existence was hidden in the land of buried gods and the glacier of death? Little Qin Zi. Very soon. The white-eyed wolf's voice rang out in Qin Feiyang's mind. Qin Feiyang summoned the white-eyed wolf and asked, How is it? I've asked the divine soul. He doesn't know where Yun Zhongqian is either. The white-eyed wolf shook his head. What? How could he not know? Qin Feiyang suddenly stood up. I asked him the same thing. But he told me that he hasn't been able to communicate with my true self since we entered this realm. And before, he also tried to communicate with my true self, but he couldn't. The white-eyed wolf shook his head. What the hell is going on? Qin Feiyang clenched his fists. Could it be that Yun Zhongqian hadn't left the heavy region? But the phoenix-robed lady had clearly sent him out. Wait. Qin Feiyang's eyes suddenly trembled as he muttered, Princess Huafeng. Could it be, young master? This time. He Zhongqian frowned and looked at Qin Feiyang. There is one person that I think I need to tell you. Perhaps Yun Zhongqian's disappearance is related to this person. Qin Feiyang's train of thought was interrupted, and he asked, Who is it? Yun Zitao. He Zhongqian said. Yun Zitao? Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other, their faces full of suspicion. He Zhongqian was stunned for a moment, then patted his head and laughed. That's right, we should call him Yun Xiang now. Yun Xiang? You have news about him? The man and the wolf were both surprised. He Zhongqian nodded and said in a deep voice, It should be not long after you entered the heavy region. Yun Xiang suddenly appeared in the southern continent. His strength is unfathomable. Not only did he kill He Changjian, but he also killed his way into our He family's territory. What? He's that strong? Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other. Of course they knew Yun Xiang's strength. Back then, he was only at the imperishable realm. Although their cultivation had reached the perfect sovereign realm now, it was because they had opened the door of potential and still had 1 day and 1,000 years of time array. Moreover, they had obtained all kinds of opportunities. For example, Qin Feiyang had obtained the inheritance of the law of destruction and directly broke through a small realm. But what did Yun Xiang have? He was wandering alone outside without a time array, without opening the door of potential. How could he grow to such a level in just a few years? Every word is true. Moreover, his cultivation has already reached the perfect sovereign realm. What's even more unbelievable is that he has comprehended the ultimate profundity of the law of space and time. He Zhongqian said each word with a pause. He was also shocked. Impossible! The white-eyed wolf shouted. He and Qin Feiyang had so many advantages, but they had only broken through to the perfect sovereign realm. However, Yun Xiang had already broken through to the perfect sovereign realm. Wasn't this a joke? I also don't want to believe it, but I saw it with my own eyes. Moreover, at that time, my body hadn't been reconstructed. If it wasn't for the blood dragon blade, I would have died in his hands. He Zhongqian said. The white-eyed wolf turned to look at Qin Feiyang and asked, Could it be that he was hiding his strength back then? That's the only explanation now. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. He didn't expect Yun Xiang to be such a powerful existence. The ultimate profundity of the law of space and perfect sovereign realm cultivation. This was already comparable to the big shots of the sky cloud realm. Yun Xiang is the son of Yun Guanghui, a descendant of the Yun family. Therefore, I'm thinking that Yun Zhongtian's disappearance might have something to do with him. He Zhongtian was suspicious. You mean that Yun Xiang took Yun Zhongtian away? The white-eyed wolf asked. We can't rule out this possibility. He Zhongtian nodded. The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Little Qin Zi, quickly find Yun Guanghui and see if you can contact Yun Xiang. This matter isn't clear yet. Let's not alarm Yun Guanghui and the others, lest they worry. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and took out the divine sound transmission stone. Buzz. Soon, a graceful figure appeared. It was Yueqing. Qin Dage. Yueqing looked at Qin Feiyang with joy. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, Little Qing, there's something I want to ask you for help with. Yueqing still wanted to ask when Qin Feiyang came out of the heavy domain, so when she heard this, she couldn't help but look a little surprised and asked suspiciously, What's the matter? Qin Feiyang said, Help me contact Yun Xiang. Contact Big Brother Yun? Yueqing was taken aback. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and then said, Right away, I have an urgent matter. Okay. Yueqing nodded, and the shadow quickly dissipated. He Zhongtian looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, She seems to be the owner of Tianyue Building? You also know Tianyue Building? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Now Tianyue Building is spread all over the western and eastern continents, and has become a force that can't be ignored in the sky cloud realm. It's hard for me not to know. He Zhongtian smiled bitterly. It turned out that Tianyue Building was really related to Qin Feiyang. Wait a minute. The owner of Tianyue Building had broken off with Qin Feiyang in private, then wouldn't the Rogue Cultivator Alliance and Devil Palace, as the patriarch of the He family, the Temple Master of Divine Hall was naturally not stupid. He instantly thought of something. All this time, Qin Feiyang had never told him that he was just putting on an act with the Demon Royal Halls and the Loose Cultivator Alliance. Originally, he thought that Qin Feiyang had truly fallen out with these two factions. But now it seemed that this was not the case. As Qin Feiyang waited anxiously, Yueqing finally sent a message. How is it? Qin Feiyang asked. Yueqing shook her head and said, I'm sorry Qin Dage, I didn't contact Big Brother Yun. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Yueqing said, But back then, after you entered the heavy domain, Big Brother Yun came to find me to ask about you. He also asked me to contact you. There was such a thing? Qin Feiyang was taken aback and asked, Why did he look for me? He didn't say. Then he left. I don't know where he went. Yueqing shook her head. Qin Feiyang frowned and said with a smile, All right, if you have any news about him, inform me immediately. Okay. Yueqing nodded. She wanted to ask a few more questions, but Qin Feiyang directly turned off the sound transmission divine stone, which made her very depressed. Inside the private room, He Zhongtian pondered for a moment, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, I think Yun Xiang looked for you to inquire about Yun Zhongtian and the others. At that time, the news of the Yun family leaving the southern continent with you had already spread in the sky cloud world. The white-eyed wolf said, Then I think Yun Zhongtian's disappearance must be related to him. It shouldn't be. Qin Feiyang shook his head thoughtfully. Why? He Zhongtian and the white-eyed wolf were puzzled. If Yun Zhongtian really ran into Yun Xiang, would they need to hide? After all, the Grim Reaper's sword, Yun Guanghui, Yun Zhongyue, and all the Yun family members are in the Black Tortoise world. Moreover, even if Yun Xiang had some misunderstanding about us, if he ran into Yun Zhongtian would definitely explain it to him, so there was no need to hide from us. I think this matter has little to do with Yun Xiang. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Then tell me what's going on. The white-eyed wolf frowned. Qin Feiyang pondered, a cold light flashing in his eyes as he said in a low voice, I'm afraid we have to ask Princess Huafeng about this matter. Because it was this woman who sent Yun Zhongtian out of the Twin Regions. You suspect that she's behind this? The white-eyed wolf was surprised. It better not be her. Otherwise the Feng people won't let this matter go. Qin Feiyang snorted coldly. The white-eyed wolf pondered for a moment, then said, In fact, we don't need to be so worried because Yun Zhongtian left his soul in the Black Tortoise world. Even if something happens, he won't really lose his life. No. He Zhongtian waved his hand. What? The white-eyed wolf looked at him suspiciously. Although Yun Zhongtian left his soul and won't really lose his life, if Yun Zhongtian's original body doesn't die, then the soul left in the black tortoise world won't be able to reconstruct a complete soul and body. In other words, as long as his original body is still alive, then we must find him. He Zhongtian said. What you mean is, only when Yun Zhongtian's original body dies, can the soul left behind reconstruct a complete soul and body, and come back from the dead? The white-eyed wolf asked. Yes. He Zhongtian nodded and smiled. If the split soul can reconstruct a complete soul and body, then wouldn't a person be able to create a large number of doppelgangers? The white-eyed wolf's brows furrowed tightly. It seemed that this matter was really a little troublesome. Chapter 3561. He Zhongtian continued furthermore. I think that if Yun Zhongtian really did encounter some mishap, then his current situation should be beyond his control. What do you mean? The white-eyed wolf looked at him in bewilderment. Yun Zhongtian and I have known each other since we were young, so I know him better than you. If he really did encounter some mishap, he would definitely abandon his main body, such as self-destructing his physical body. Anyway, there is still a soul in the black tortoise world, so it doesn't matter if he self-destructs. He Zhongtian said. That makes sense. The white-eyed wolf nodded. Let's hope that we are just worrying for nothing. Qin Feiyong sighed and looked at He Zhongtian. Are those princes and princesses still in your He family? No. After reconstructing their souls and physical bodies, they left when they learned that you went to the heavy regions. He Zhongtian said. Left? The man and wolf looked at each other and frowned. They wouldn't have gone to block the exit of the heavy regions, right? I don't know, they didn't say anything when they left. He Zhongtian said. Qin Feiyong asked, then, is there any news about the dragon's crown prince? No. He Zhongtian shook his head. This person is really good at holding back. He still hasn't issued a challenge. The white-eyed wolf sneered. Right now, I don't have the mood to care about him. Let's find out Yun Zhongtian's whereabouts first. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and looked at He Zhongtian. Take out the divine sound transmission stone and establish a contract bridge. It will be easier to communicate in the future. Okay. He Zhongtian took out the divine sound transmission stone. After establishing the contract bridge, Qin Feiyong prepared to let the white-eyed wolf open a space-time tunnel and leave. He Zhongtian hesitated and looked at Qin Feiyong. Young master, please wait. Qin Feiyong turned and looked at He Zhongtian suspiciously. There is something. He Zhongtian hesitated for a moment and sighed. It's about Yun Xiang. No, it's about Yun Xiang. Wait, Yun Zitao? Qin Feiyong only noticed this name now. He Zhongtian explained. Yun Xiang was originally called Yun Zitao, but it was changed at some point. I see. Qin Feiyong nodded in understanding. Looking at the bashful He Zhongtian, he smiled and said, just say what you want to say. Please take a seat. He Zhongtian pointed at the seat beside him. Qin Feiyong returned to his seat. White-eyed wolf was also lying on the chair beside him, looking at He Zhongtian curiously. This matter starts from a very long time ago. Back then Yun Xiang had shown his prowess for the first time and displayed astonishing talent. He was even hailed as the #1 evildoer of the Yun family, and had the potential to surpass Yun Zhongtian. At that time the Yun family carefully protected him. However, there is no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. Then one day our He family found out about this. Then we planned. Speaking of this, He Zhongtian sighed, his face full of regret. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed slightly. He asked, you plan to kill him in the cradle? Yes. He Zhongtian nodded and said, under our meticulous planning, we finally succeeded in killing Yun Xiang. At that time Yun Xiang's mother was also present. In order to protect Yun Xiang, she also died in our hands. Qin Feiyong and White-Eyed Wolf exchanged glances. So this was Yun Xiang's story. It was no wonder that Yun Zhongtian and Yun Guangwei wanted to kill He Zhongtian so badly back in the Milky Way. But I didn't expect that Yun Xiang actually didn't die. Moreover, he didn't let down the Yun family's expectations. At such a young age, he cultivated to the peak of the Dominator realm and comprehended the most profound meaning of the space-time laws. He Zhongtian sighed. So now you're afraid? White-eyed wolf looked at him mockingly. Afraid? He Zhongtian smiled proudly and said, even if he comprehended the most profound meaning, he can only dream of killing this old man. But the situation is different now. In the past, because our two families were at odds, no matter who it was, we would definitely think of ways to deal with the other. But now, Yun Zhongtian and I are both working for the young master. If we continue to fight like this, it won't be good for anyone. Qin Feiyang said. But the fact that you killed Yun Guanghui's wife and son cannot be erased. Indeed. But now, the sword of the Grim Reaper has fallen into Yun Zhongtian's hands. He Changgang, He Changjian, He Chenggang's son, and the Yun family members who were stationed in Yunhan City all died at the hands of Yun Xiang. So no matter what, we should be even. He Zhongtian said. You can't settle the score like this. After all, you were the ones who attacked first. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Young master, I don't agree with this. Our two families have always been enemies. You schemed against me and I schemed against you. This is a common occurrence. So, there's really no way to trace back to the root cause and find out who attacked first. He Zhongtian waved his hand. Qin Feiyang heard this and felt that it made sense. If two people who didn't know each other had a grudge, it would definitely be possible to tell who was right and who was wrong. But the Yun family and the He family had already formed a grudge since the first generation of ancestors. Moreover, they were both fighting for their own power and ambition. So, there was really no way to discuss who was right and who was wrong. Qin Feiyang said, do you mean that you want me to help mediate between the two? Yes. He Zhongtian nodded and said with a smile, after all, both of our families are working for you now. If we were to fight, it would definitely be your loss. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and nodded. All right, when we find Yun Xiang, I'll give it a try. But I'm not confident in this matter. It doesn't matter. If Yun Xiang really doesn't let go, then we'll just fight to the death. He Zhongtian snorted coldly. Old He, you're too early to say that. You just said that the sword of Thanatos is now in the hands of the Yun family. Moreover, the Yun family is now in the Black Tortoise world. What do you have to fight to the death with them? The white-eyed wolf chuckled. This, He Zhongtian's expression stiffened and he gritted his teeth. If it really comes to that, I'll borrow the hands of the dragons to deal with them. But don't misunderstand, I'm going to deal with the Yun family, not you. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf smiled at each other and said lightly, it hasn't come to that yet. Don't worry, we'll do our best to mediate. Thank you. He Zhongtian said gratefully. All right, then we'll leave first. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. The white-eyed wolf opened a space-time tunnel and one man and one wolf descended on the sea lion island. The sea lion came up and asked, Brother Qin, Boss Wolf, how was it? Nothing. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Don't worry, heaven helps the worthy. The sea lion comforted. Qin Feiyang smiled and looked at the white-eyed wolf. Go to the two entrances of the heavy domain and see if the dragon's prince and princess are blocking them. All right. The white-eyed wolf nodded. Qin Feiyang took out the horsetail whisk and said, follow the white-eyed wolf and be careful. After the white-eyed wolf and the horsetail whisk left, Qin Feiyang looked at the sea lion and smiled. We didn't disturb you, did we? Why would I? I can't wait for you guys to stay here. That way, I can also bask in your glory. The sea lion chuckled. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. All right, you continue to cultivate, I'll go back to work. After saying that, he entered the Black Tortoise world and landed in front of the ancient castle, directly entering the cultivation room. 2 days outside, 2,000 years in the Black Tortoise world. The phoenix-robed woman's soul floated in the cultivation room. She had already reconstructed many souls, but there were no signs of her awakening. Qin Feiyang observed for a while, then left the cultivation room and entered the tea garden. While drinking tea, he lowered his head and muttered, Young master? When did you come back? Not long after. The Pei brothers returned to the Devil's Land and saw Qin Feiyang sitting alone in the tea garden. They couldn't help but be stunned, then quickly flew over. I just came back 2 days ago. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Then why didn't you inform us? We could have come to welcome you. Pei Dason said. What's there to welcome? Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled and praised. It's been hard on you all these years. No. The two hurriedly waved their hands. Sit. Qin Feiyang pointed to the stone bench next to him. We don't dare. The two hurriedly shook their heads, their faces full of fear. And Qin Feiyong frowned. The brother and sister looked at each other and sat down with trepidation. Seeing this, Qin Feiyong couldn't help but want to laugh. He waved his hand and said, "Don't be so nervous. Old Pei has followed me through life and death. No matter how many grudges there are, it's time to draw a line." Yes, yes, yes. The two nodded. Qin Feiyong poured 2 cups of tea and handed them to the two. Thank you. In short, the two were very uncomfortable. Qin Feiyong took a sip of tea, looked at the two and asked, "Let me ask you, do you hate me?" The two looked stunned. Qin Feiyong said, "I want to hear the truth." "Yes." Pei Dason gritted his teeth and nodded. "How much do you hate?" Qin Feiyong asked with a smile. "I hate you to the bone. But this is the beginning of my hatred. At that time you suppressed us in the Soul-Sealing Valley and tortured us. You even killed my son in front of me. I really wanted to tear you into pieces. Later on, we submitted to you because we didn't have a choice. After all, you controlled our lives. However, as I got to know you better and got to know you better, especially after seeing how well you treated Lord Father, the hatred in my heart gradually decreased. Especially in the past few years, we have been managing the Black Tortoise world. We have seen the respect, love and worship that every living being in the Black Tortoise world has for you. We have also learned about your growth and everything you have done. That's why I'm filled with admiration for you right now," Pei Dason said from the bottom of his heart. Qin Feiyong smiled. "Then it seems that you know me like the back of your hands." "Yes." The brother and sister nodded. "Yes. It's really not been easy on this road. And along the way, those who helped me, whether they're by my side now or not, whether they're humans or other living beings, I'm extremely grateful. Especially the Sword Emperor and the others. In order to protect the living beings in the ancient world, they sacrificed everything. So I won't allow anyone to hurt them." Although Qin Feiyong's words were calm and carried a trace of emotion, the brother and sister could feel a sharp edge. Actually, as long as everyone gets along with each other sincerely, there's no grudge that can't be resolved. When Dan Wangkai returns, you can go find him. Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. "Thank you, young master." Hearing this, the two were overjoyed and quickly got up to thank him. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure. Oh,